viewers. Welcome to the podcast. And today we have my friend Josh. We got my friend Lou. And welcome back, Dre, to the podcast. Today's going to be a really good podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of topics. And do you guys want to introduce yourselves? Start with Josh.
Yeah, I'm Josh, military veteran and co-creator of psychedelics.com.
I'm Lou. I'm the founder of psychedelics.com, and I've got a colorful history with entheogenic plants, delving into the gray and black market spaces of access and different hard-won knowledge and wisdom on mental health fundamental skills.
Andre, basically, I would say a medicine man. I had to be short and blunt. That's pretty much it, I guess. But a psychedelic plant medicine advocate, community organizer, father. Yeah, I'm now a head coach of my son's baseball team.
Nice.
But yeah, anyways.
Okay, Josh, do you want to start with your journey?
Sure. Where would you like me to start?
Whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
Okay. Let's see. Sure. So, I served in the military. I was serving in the Marine Corps, and I got out, did some combat tours, and got out, and I was in a pretty interesting life. I went to school, went to college, I did that thing. I was doing well, actually.
Yeah.
High GPA, had the family, the wife, the kids, the house, the car. I started seeing myself as successful, and it was interesting because Lou and I were kind of talking about this a little bit on the way up. And in that, I was getting awards.
Yeah.
And even in the Marines, I had some problems in the Marines too, but I was often awarded with things, for my efforts, for my production, for my work ethic. And when I got out of the military, nothing really changed. I was still doing that. But what I started to notice more and more was I was very angry. And bringing awareness around that anger was kind of leading me down the wrong path, we'll say. And as I began to struggle more and more and more with that anger, I began to lose my control over my life.
Yeah.
And although I was functioning at this high frequency, I was on the wrong side of the coin. Mm-hmm. And what wound up happening is my frequency was actually very low because I had shame and hatred and guilt and all kinds of different things, and for many reasons.
Right.
I always thought they were good reasons, I guess, but are there any really good reasons for anybody to really be in those spaces? And here in hindsight, I would say, no, not really. And as I was going through this time, post-military experience, I came to a friend one time. And sometimes, friends are really one of the most influential people in your lives. And I didn't have any. I only had like one or two friends. I really didn't have many.
Yeah.
Especially being angry and in that space. I wasn't really surrounded by a community.
Right.
I was walking around in pride, around those awards.
Yeah.
And I did have one friend, and this friend I actually served in the military with, and I do talk about this sometimes. And he used to cut my hair when I was getting my hair cut, and I joke about that. But one time I went in to go see him, and we sat in his chair, and we get my hair cut. He's like, "Man, you come in here all the time, bro, but I'm worried about you."
Yeah.
And for somebody like this person to actually speak on that, I'm hearing some peacocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, must be an affirmation.
It is.
Keep going, right?
Affirmations of the world around us.
Yeah, exactly. So, my buddy, the barber, he's like, "Hey, bro, I'm worried about you."
Yeah.
I'm like, "All right, what are you talking about?" So I wasn't really aware of it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm afraid you might hurt yourself or somebody else."
Wow.
And for this guy to say that, it's just not common,
Right.
And Lou knows him too.
He's a rough Marine. For him this person to say what Josh means that's concerning because he's really rough around the edges himself.
Yeah.
So for him to say he's worried about you in that capacity, yeah, I would take it seriously.
And I did, and that one conversation with this one friend.
Yeah.
Who happened to be rough around the edges. Cool.
Yeah.
But for him to have the courage just to say something
Right.
and speak truth into my life gave me enough insight that, hey, man, maybe there is something seriously wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And as I began to look in the mirror, I didn't really like what I was seeing.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I would curse myself in that mirror, so they say some of the meanest things.
Right.
And then I would use that energy to go get my awards. And it's such a strange way of doing things, but I think there's people out there that can resonate with what I'm talking about, at least in the military space.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's actually where I met Lou. Lou came into my life at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I asked him, this barber, I was like, "Hey, what do you mean? What am I going to do?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, I'm afraid that you're going to hurt somebody or hurt somebody or yourself.
Right.
But I do have a solution for you, or at least somebody that I think you should talk to." And the recommendation was to go and talk to Lou. And when we started having our conversations, psychedelics didn't exist at the time. And this is like kind of pre-psychedelics. This is pre the project. But everything else within the project, the mental health and the structure and the fundamentals, maybe it wasn't written on paper, but it definitely was in his brain.
Yeah.
And he started to introduce me to some fundamentals, and maybe that would be a good time for Lou to speak on those. He doesn't have to do it right now, but as I finish my story, we can go into those a little deeper.
Yeah.
That's what we focused on. That's where we started.
Yeah.
And, we didn't start with plant medicine. We started with like, hey, man, let's do some like deep work.
Right.
Like, how you feeling? And what's coming up when you have these feelings? And we began to talk about some of the very deep things that were going on with me. Why was I so angry?
Yeah.
And I do have some reasons for that. And I think, the more I would reveal those reasons, people would agree that, yeah, it's understandable.
Right.
So like in my early childhood, I had childhood sexual trauma and I buried it. That's how I was taught. I was taught to bury these things.
Right.
And I was good at it.
Mm-hmm.
Generationally, that's what we did.
Yeah.
So, I buried it so deep that I thought it would never come back up. Yeah. Oh, and it did. You can't bury that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I pushed it all the way down into my toes and I couldn't even feel my feet. And it came up anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what are we going to do with this? And my friend Lou here is the one who taught me how to just become aware of things.
Right.
Like simply, like, hey, let's just start with awareness. And awareness isn't simple, but it is a fundamental solution for mental health problems. And as we began to explore that, we went and we worked further into plant medicine. We got deeper. I was at a point in my life where I was going to lose everything, my family. I was likely very, very close to not only divorce, but post-divorce, which I always kind of think of like going to live under a bridge. So I was nearly lost. And in this space, I was very desperate. And I was like, listen, Josh, in the mirror.
Yeah.
What do you have to lose? I mean, why not give my friend Lou here a shot at exploring my beliefs, learning to sit still, going out in nature, exploring my identity, my ego,
Yeah.
and managing that appropriately.
Right.
You know, and again, we're having peacocks.
Yeah. Right. Key
Yeah,
moments.
keep going. That's what it says.
Key moments.
So, the journey with Lou is still going.
Yeah.
We still go out in nature, and we still work, and we still talk, and we still communicate. You know, I see him as not only a friend,
Yeah.
but a mentor. And as we begin to work in this space further and further, you know, it's interesting that Andre's here. I met Andre through psychedelics, the work that we began to do, and I even worked with Kambo with him on more than one occasion. And it was interesting because, like, while I was working with him in that medicine, I got some really, really important insights. I went through 2 Kambo ceremonies with him, and both of the times I had some really extreme pain come up. And in that pain, I did some exploring. I went to the hospital through my regular mental health care, and I got a ultrasound.
Yeah.
And then I found out that I have liver disease, and that I honestly I don't know if I would have noticed it unless I did the medicine.
Yeah.
You know, like it's clearly, you know, I'm overweight. You know, so some things were clear, but the pain just really wasn't setting in, and then I got to experience that, and nothing like pain. Pain's a great teacher. It's one of the best. And, you know, I started making some shifts in my life. You know, nobody's perfect, but I am making some real changes.
Right.
And, you know, meeting him, it was a blessing. And I want to go back and see him again. You know, I think that's going to happen
I think we
very
got to
soon.
do our 3rd round with him.
Yeah, maybe a couple in the same month.
Okay, so if you guys don't know me and Josh, Lou, have you done Kambo or no?
No, and I'd like to, but I got a gallbladder condition right now I'm a little concerned about, so we're
Got it.
monitoring that for now. Once I kind of figure that out, then I'm definitely going to do a session, yeah.
So me and Josh have done Kambo twice, and we got to do our 3rd round with Dre. So do you want to talk about Kambo and like what is it, the benefits, where does it come from?
Yeah, so Kambo is it's a monkey tree frog. It comes from the Amazon. It's traditionally given as a preparation for tribes that work with ayahuasca medicine to prepare them as a cleanse. It's about a 15 to 20 minute experience where basically this medicine is scraped off of the frog, off the back. It's not harmed in the process. And anyways, they use this as the secretion that has, you know, hundreds of peptides in this medicine and other frog compounds. Peptides going through your whole lymphatic system. Right, as we traditionally, we administer the medicine with a little burn on your skin. Right, and so we just basically remove the first layer of skin to apply the medicine. And so it's about a 15-20 minute purge, cleanse, where, you know, it's emotional, spiritual, you know, crying, every which way you guys experience, you know.
Exactly.
You might feel like you're dying for a few minutes, but then you 15 minutes later you're like, oh my God, thank God I did that, you know. But yeah, it's a medicine I kind of got into, you know, say this past 10 years, more specifically for the fertility benefits of it. Me and my partner, my wife, now we're searching out for, you know, the benefits of it, and it basically helped heal my wife and blessed us with 2 healthy kids. But while working with that, I realized it was the most powerful medicines healing my own self. I nearly died in my 20s. Got a bunch of metal in my hip and my body. Been through a lot of traumas in my youth, and I feel Kambo's been the most powerful tools of how it kind of helped me heal my mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
So it is one of the main tools I kind of utilize, you know, in my toolbox of plant medicines and everything, or amphibian medicines. But yeah, that's how I met Josh. You know, I've been working with this medicine for, like I said, the past 10 years. I have served a lot of veterans, and I got family of veterans and everything. So that's one type of work or one aspect of people I like to, you know, be of service to, especially to, you know, help them in the process of, you know, healing and just coming back from maybe, you know, I've had friends that came back with some PTSD and some a lot worse than others, and and it's
Yeah.
so it's something that I've always kept close to my heart. But yeah,
And you helped one of my friends, and he's a veteran, and after he did the kambu, he felt very. There was a lot of chatter in his brain,
Yeah.
and once he did it, it was just clear.
yeah,
You know.
yeah, definitely, yeah.
And then the last time I did it with you, I was like turning red. You're like, Yvette, drink some water. The heat was just, he saw me. He's like, Yvette, you need to drink some water. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so,
Yeah.
It's a powerful medicine and it works, It worked for me. And I do got to do my third round. I've been thinking about it. It gave me some sort of like relief, and I felt my nervous system was a hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize how bad it was until I did it. And once I did that, and I felt so much grounded, at peace, more like a release than anything. And then, yeah, it works,
Yeah, and if I may add, I really like how Andre does the ceremony. Specifically, I like the spiritual side of things. It really helps me get into my feelings, into my body more. And specifically, I like that location in Anaheim. I haven't gone to the Victorville one. I think that one could possibly be just as cool, but
Yeah.
Anaheim
Santa
one.
Santa Ana.
Is it Santa Ana? Okay,
Yeah.
my bad.
No
Santa
worries.
Ana.
We're like Santa Ana.
Santa Ana. All right, Santa Ana. My bad. Anyway, I really like that location, and I think both of the time. Well, the first time I went, there was live music,
Yeah.
and I like that. And I knew some of the songs because I've been, spending some time in ceremony with others as well, and that familiarity was really helpful. And then just the welcoming spirit that I received while I was there. And on top of that, I think the best thing out of all of it, because we're gonna puke, right? This is it's gonna happen. That's the whole thing. Like,
Exactly.
we're there to puke, and it's that kombucha punch. It's so much better to puke.
It's so good. It's so good.
than water. Oh man, I've done the water one, and that was horrible.
there you go, dude.
Yeah, but this punch, man, that was actually wasn't so bad.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
And we did the hape, right? It was hape,
Yep.
and then sananga.
Yep.
We did the sananga, and I don't know. I liked it, and I could hang out, talk for a little bit. I felt very much like you felt.
Yeah.
Where I went there, I was a little kind of anxious, and then afterwards, after you do that, after you purge, you're gonna feel different, right? And I felt different.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that. So I came back and we did it again, and yeah, I want to go back and do another one.
Yes, for sure. And so, Lou, you would like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my story's really a big one, and so I want to make sure that I don't suck up too much time with my whole story. And so the way I'll do this is I'm going to give you a flyover, and then the details that you're interested in, you can point them out. My story begins at a very young age. At around 6 years old or so, I knew that I disagreed with our societal structure.
Yeah.
I knew that from a very young age. So I've been a rebel since that time frame. And there were family dynamics. There was very deep things under the surface with my father, who was a very interesting and conflicted, contradictory person. So my father was a math professor. I didn't find out till several years after he passed away that he was involved with the Italian mafia in Manhattan prior to going to school, getting an education, and becoming a math professor and joining the military during the Korean War. So father was not a normal math professor. If you have an image in your head of what a math professor behaves like, looks like,
Yeah.
my father was angry and had violent outbursts and rages and would engage in road rage incidents with violence. So that had a shaping effect on the way that helped me also with my interpretation of the world, because I knew something was wrong. And as a kid, you don't have things worked out logically, but the sensations you're going through, the body is recording everything. So then I was also exposed to a very violent culture within the neighborhoods I was growing up in, and I sometimes joke and I say, you know, I was the grain of rice in the raisin bowl, so to speak. My junior high school was called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Middle School Academy, and sadly, his legacy has become the poorer, disenfranchised neighborhoods have streets named after him instead of them being lovely places and neighborhoods. They tend to be really rough, and this was no exception to that. So I got exposed to gang violence, drug deals, saw my first stabbings and shootings in the 5th grade, and then developed an interest in martial arts. So my experience with psychedelics and plant medicines and that whole world that we're sort of talking about comes from a very different angle than most people, I would say. Because, and the reason for that is my initial interest was to learn to defend myself.
Yeah.
I was getting jumped pretty much daily. I would get $2.25 for lunch, which I would buy like a little pizza bread and a bag of chips, whatever, and sit in the cafeteria area with the rest of the junior high school kids. But fairly often each week there was a street gang. They were I think they were like 18th Street or something like this. They were a Mexican American street gang that they would jump me in the locker room, and I would never back down from them, so I would get my head bashed in the locker several times. Kids were bigger than me, and then he would eventually always get my money from me. So because of those experiences, I had this interest in martial arts and weightlifting.
Yeah.
And my father felt that weightlifting was a stupid activity. He said to me, "Why would you pick up a weight and put it back down?" My dad liked to insult people's intelligence. And that's just a facet of his lack of emotional intelligence. My father had zero emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And zero body awareness, I would say, because of the way he died. He died a very difficult death from colon cancer, in which he resisted, going to the doctor and getting checked out, where he knew he was ill.
Yeah.
He was seeing blood when he was using the restroom for probably who knows how long. And then waiting too long was a death sentence for him, unfortunately. But those experiences, the violence, the wanting to learn martial arts, the way that my father was, led me to seek out mentors. That many of these people were Vietnam veterans. So I always looked up to the veterans around me. A lot of these guys were airborne rangers, Marines, spec ops guys, had done really dangerous and ugly things in Vietnam and had PTSD. I was around PTSD when I was, 12 years old. I was seeing guys snap and go into violent rages and not be in control of themselves.
Yeah.
And so I was exposed to all that, but also one of my very early martial arts teachers had an idea, and it wasn't a new idea. It turns out the Japanese have had this idea for a long time, and I'm sure other cultures have had it as well, and it's the idea of flow state. In Japanese, they call it mushin. They have 3 optimal mindsets for combat. One is mushin, the second is fudoshin, and the third is hydroshin. Fudoshin, for translation, ease of translation, just would be to call it conviction. Why am I going into battle, and why am I going to stay in battle and not flee? And then hydroshin is maintaining calm while in a horrendous, violent, and chaotic situation.
Yeah.
But mushin is the most interesting of those 3 because it is something that when you experience it, I think you immediately sense a connectedness to something larger than yourself.
Yeah.
And there's a spiritual essence to it. And when you're an athlete, or when you're in combat sports, or when you're whatever it is that requires performance, and you experience that, you're blown away by it, especially the first time you experience it. It just feels so just locked in, Yeah. And so I had an early teacher who was teaching us meditation through Kundalini practice. At least that's what he claimed it was. And it probably was, with a certain of his own added things to it. And he had promoted that by saying this was an attempt at achieving that mindset that would lead to flow states during martial arts practice, and then, if necessary, combat and self-defense situations. So I found out after some time of training with him, and all the students were older than me because this actually was at a college campus. He was
Yeah.
a kinesiology instructor as well. That with his older students, he was doing meditation sessions with LSD and psilocybin mushrooms. And I found that out pretty young. And he had recommended some different books on Toltec shamanism and ideologies, including some of the earlier Carlos Castaneda's books, and some texts by the that were done around the Huichol practices and the Maracames. And I became interested. And so I took my first LSD dose and was my first experience with psychedelics in 1995. It took 3 experiences to have the full experience, which was not pleasant, by the way. It was a combination of many things. Initially, ecstatic, sort of ecstasy, an amazing feeling, and then that turned into something sort of similar to Hoffman's description of his bicycle day, demons and things in the kitchen, and I won't go into the particulars of the story, but that was my introduction to psychedelics, and then that also coincided with the rave years. And so I got to experience sort of this Wild West immersion into psychedelics without mentorship guidance, without ancestral knowledge, without any of that. And that led to me getting a rounded experience of both really negative outcomes with psychedelics and plant medicine, and then also some very positive, transformative, life-changing experiences and spiritual awakenings. So that was a really mixed bag, and at the time I had no understanding of why these were different. And added to that, which added a lot of fear to this, was that first martial arts instructor that I was sort of joking about there. He ended up losing control with plant medicines, and he ended up committing suicide by a gunshot to the head. I actually almost found his body. And those of us who were students of his, at this point I'd been a student of his for probably over a decade, left us feeling very lost. And then shortly after that was when my father went through his cancer, and then he died. And so when I say my experience with psychedelics is different, especially than in the modern era that we're in now, where we're seeing people coming to this alternative approach to mental health because they're looking for mental health solutions. You have to understand that's not why I went towards this, you know. So my experience was actually coming from extreme, and I was pushing the envelope. I was what you might refer to, I'm not sure I like the term that much, but as a psychonaut. I was taking massive doses of things like LSD, psilocybin. I even experimented with datura. For people in the audience that don't know what that is, I guess I would have to describe that. That's a very dangerous plant, but also in certain traditions in South America is known as the godmother plant, that may have, in some story traditions, is how ayahuasca was discovered and curare and things like that. So that's a very interesting tale about that particular plant. And I have a very positive, deep bond with datura that is its own. We could do a whole podcast on just that. So coming into the first experience with the death of someone as close to me as my father, and with a difficult and challenging, traumatic relationship with him, because I'm only giving you small slices of who he was. He was an abusive person.
Right.
I love him, and I've forgiven him for that after years of work on myself. But he had these issues, and so going through his death with the unresolved issues we had led to massive mental health challenges for me. This was back in 2002. And remember, I already was disillusioned with our society.
Yeah.
And now I got to experience Western psychiatric medicine, which almost led to my death. Came very close. One of the things I was told, because I began to experience persistent multiple panic attacks within single days. We're talking 15 or more panic attacks that would lead to almost losing consciousness and vomiting, and couldn't drive.
Wow.
Couldn't work, couldn't go to school, just could not function.
Yeah.
And so I was ending up in ERs. Initially, it did feel like a heart attack. That was the first place it starts like that for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
It gets worse from there, though, when it doesn't stop, because then once you realize it's not physiological, you feel like you're losing your mind. And that's actually more frightening.
Yeah.
It feels very eternal. that this is never going to stop. And then I went to an outpatient clinic because I was very upfront about all the things I'd done in my life, including the psychedelics. And I was told I was brain damaged from my experimentation, that I had brain damaged myself. And I was told that without any diagnostic, exploration or research. It was just, yeah, you're brain damaged, and so here's the pharmaceutical solution. And so all the pills came. Well, I definitely wasn't brain damaged. And funny enough, I believe the spirits of these powerful medicines were actually protecting me through this whole thing, because within my first dosage, one of the main medicines they gave me was Paxil. Within taking one pill of Paxil, I knew, not taking that again.
Yeah.
The benzodiazepines, Seroquel, an antipsychotic that led to the death of a friend of mine directly through a psychotic break. They prescribed that to me. And their attitude was, you're going to be on this for life. The whole thing was very frightening. And I was already disillusioned with our society. And then I experienced this, and I went, wow, this is all wrong.
Can I say something real quick? Because I have a lot of friends that do take medication, that aspect. And I just want to let people know, whoever's watching, that if you don't like the way this medicine is treating you, you need to go back and get reevaluated. Do not take the medicine, because just because they gave you a pill doesn't mean it's going to work. You got to listen to your body and your mind. I just want to say that.
100% agree. Your body's far more sophisticated than any diagnostic tooling they have. And that's actually the story of my journey, is then beginning to learn, what is my body telling me? And it turns out the panic attacks, anxiety, all that stuff is just your body screaming at you that you're not listening.
Yep.
And then once you begin to listen, that will start to calm down. And then you start to understand what is being told to you, which is far deeper and wiser than this language-based logical mind frame that we have, which is what our science and our current Western medical framework is built on, is pure logic. Logic is a wonderful tool when kept within certain boundaries and used appropriately. When allowed to become a tyrant, it becomes a source of grave misery for enormous populations. And that leads to what I really have become over the years, and maybe where I was always, on the path of, is I've become somewhat of, I would say, a philosopher. I've basically arrived at my own understanding of our reality and consciousness, and it's not all just my own ideas, of course. It's taken from reading and really a focus and foundation on natural understanding, which for me would go back to indigenous pre-agrarian civilization living. And there's what I would say, a huge propaganda effort from society that goes back hundreds of years, if not thousands, to discredit indigenous populations as savages and heathens and almost subhuman in a way, but very infantile and not capable individuals that didn't have medicines, that lived harsh lives and died young, all kinds of completely false information. These indigenous people who lived for many more thousands of years than modern man has been living understood medicinal knowledge of the natural landscape and plants at a level that we can't even imagine. And what we don't realize, many people don't know this because they keep it quiet, a majority of the medications that you do get that may actually work in some cases, in many cases, in fact, do work, come from indigenous knowledge that was extracted from anthropologists interacting with shamans and medicine men, and then brought that to pharmaceutical companies who then refined it into whatever pill they wanted to develop and put a patent on. And so that has, over the years, because my original delvings into these spirit medicines came at a heavy societal and even family cost of judgment, that I was crazy, that I was damaging myself, that I was going to go completely insane.
Yeah.
And what is somewhat nice about where we're at now is that that's turning out to be completely untrue, and people are starting to go, wow, how did you do this so early and begin down this path, so young And it turns out you were on the right path, right?
Right.
But I was on the right path with the wrong tools and without the mentorship. I later went through a period of deep, because of that loss of complete faith in anything in this societal world, I went into trafficking marijuana and then other substances. I'm an anti-war on drugs advocate. That's a whole other topic of more propaganda and more misleading information about addiction and how it actually operates. And so I lived approximately from around the time that my father passed away, maybe a year after. I was actually in a PhD program for mathematics. I have a master's in math. I left all that behind to join this underground world, and then in around 2008, I met someone that within 10 minutes I just knew that I loved her.
Yeah.
And I was on a date with someone else, and I met her, and then I didn't have my date the next week, and then I was talking to her. Lasted 6 years, traveled the world, and then she was a victim of a grave, grave tragedy. Her first love was murdered in front of her, stabbed to death in Ocean Beach, and she tried to intervene. And then she was intimidated by the individuals who perpetrated that murder during the trial process. And that combined with some early childhood traumas and all those things led to a very damaged psyche. And so sadly, in 2014, December 10th, we found her body as a result of a drug overdose. And that was the catalyst to me coming full circle, because during that time period of just being in the trafficking world and doing all that stuff, and I went through prison time and hostage situations and deaths of friends and shootouts, crazy stuff. I lived an insane life. I was not too much on the spiritual path. It wasn't gone. I've always been in touch with a certain level of intuition and connection to spirit. That I would say is what kept me alive through some of this stuff. But I would say that those are more kind of these lost years. I had been exposed to Chinese energetic medicine, Qigong breathwork. That was what saved me during that time period of the Western medical psychiatric care that was failing, and that saved my life. And so I spent some time training with an individual who was really saved my life. And so I had that tooling, and then I was just like, screw society. I'm done with all of this. I'm going into this trafficking world, leaving the schooling behind, the jobs, everything. Yeah. And I began to make millions of dollars and live this life and chase women and do that stuff and go to parties and drink and then, this trajectory happened where I met her, and then we lived this life, and then she died. Yeah. And then I came full circle. And that's what led me back to, okay, what's really going on with plant medicine? Why did some people literally die from it as a domino effect? In some cases led to suicide from psychotic breaks. In some cases, death from improper use of medications like lithium, prescribed lithium, not natural lithium. In some cases, a slow decline through alcoholism and drinking themselves to death or drugs. And then others had this transformative experience with psychedelics where their life seemed to change, and they, found their spiritual path, and they centered, and they became productive in the things that they really wanted to do and found their dreams. So what was the difference? And I discovered that there were skills and foundational fundamentals to everything in life. Yeah. And you would think that maybe I would sort of understand that because mathematics is that understanding. You can't go and do calculus or abstract algebra or topology or some really high-level math without having started at 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly. And then addition, subtraction, multiplication, right? There is a foundation that you build upon. This is one of the wonderful things about mathematics is you don't go to second grade and they say, well, today we're going to teach you multivariable calculus. Yeah. And then tomorrow we're going to study arithmetic. That makes no sense to us. But in the rest of the world, where things aren't so structured and linear, we do that a lot. And jumping into plant medicine without proper mentorship and guidance and understanding is sort of like going to a multivariable calculus course when you've never done a day in mathematics. It's not wise. And so I then really the hard way began to understand some root fundamentals. I developed, the first one was with her death, where I really had my first download of root fundamentals was understanding what love is. And I found out that love was a lot of things that people didn't realize what it was, and was conflated with other ideas and mixed up. Love is a very specific thing, and it has these 3 root fundamentals. And this is before I developed the 8 root fundamentals of mental, emotional, spiritual skill development and growth. This was my starting place, because I then realized that the 3 roots were this structure of the poet's root, the compass root, and the parent's root. And then those roots pointed to some contradictions, especially within romantic love, especially within the way that we apply, validation to love in some way that creates a conditional aspect. Mm-hmm. There are even people out there who believe that there's no such thing as unconditional love. Unfortunately, they just haven't experienced the real thing.
Right.
And so that understanding of the poet's root, by the way, is, and I won't go into the full depth of everything, but the poet's root is the fact that we don't choose who we love. It's chosen for us, which points to something bigger than us. The compass root points to the fact that love is a skill, and that what the compass root is love is always liberating, so it's not controlling or confining. And the reason it's a compass is because if you want to understand someone else's motives or your own motives, all you need to ask is one simple question. Am I or are they attempting to confine or control, or am I attempting to liberate? The answer to that will tell you whether it's real, authentic love or not. The Buddhists call it noble love. I just call it true or authentic love. Doesn't matter. And the third root makes love even more difficult, because now there's a paradoxical element. And that is because with small children, we have to control and confine them for their own safety. And so now all of a sudden we have this opposing force of controlling and confining, even though that's counter to what actual love is. Yeah. And so it's the parent's root, because then parents have to, through this very tricky and delicate journey, begin to relinquish controlling and confining and allowing children to be exposed to dangers. And that's a very hard thing to do, and eventually allow them to be their own person and liberate them. So that was my first enormous eye-opener, and that was through this, what I would say is the greatest advisor in this world, which is death. That's how I learned what love was, because once she died, boy, was it clear. And then I began down the road of the 8 root fundamentals, which Josh started to talk a little bit about. And that's when I started to gain some real competency in mental health spaces and began to have competency with psychedelics. And by the way, I have something that I would basically categorize as psychedelic-induced PTSD. So I took as much as 12,000 micrograms of LSD in one sitting. In another case, I took 28 grams of dried mushrooms and around 6,000 micrograms of LSD combined. I've done some podcasts on this where I just talk about the crazy stories, which can be fun. But there's a podcast on Spotify called Trip Report where I just talk about my wild hallucinations and journeys into the spirit realm. But
Dre's face.
Yeah.
He's like, we should share that.
Yeah. So and my experiences with Datura, which are amazing, and different plant medicines, but. In achieving those enormous dosages under the psychological framework in which I was operating, I did induce actual psychedelic-induced PTSD. And so now when I take psychedelics, my body has an immediate reaction of terror and fear, and I have to overcome that now. And so this is one of the things that is important to me in my advocacy with people who are seeking out these medicines, is to please not follow in my footsteps, because it's very, I've had people say to me, wow, that must be really tough. The medicine that can help you, you've created a problem with it for yourself. Exactly. Don't do that. It's really a difficult journey once you've created that problem. And I attribute it similar, or I compare it in some way to sort of like having I ride motorcycles too. It's like having a bad motorcycle accident, breaking your back, and learning to walk again. You have to go through a very difficult process of rebuilding your confidence
Yeah.
and going through all of that. And I've had to do that with psychedelics. So that led to understanding these 8 root fundamentals, which I can enumerate if you like, but for now I will skip that. And then that led to building the platform Psychedelist, which is a play on words, and that was a very intended choice of words because we're a directory list, a community support list, an advertising list, but that's rather one-dimensional in the use of that play on words. The part that's more interesting, I think, is if you think of analogous categories in the English language like scientist, physicist, pianist, violinist, you'll see that those are categories of individuals who have spent long, dedicated, determined hours building a skill set. And so the idea with the name Psychedelis is we're hoping that one day folks that really engage in this world on a passionate level and really trying to help others might refer to themselves as psychedelists one day. So that's, there was a little more detail than I kind of got into some of the winding roads there, but I guess that's good for an introduction.
And then do you want to share like how you guys started working together?
Yeah, the individual that he's mentioning is a former Marine as well, and a really tough dude that experienced combat and IED explosions and has his own PTSD. And so the reason we sort of know each other is from the martial arts community. We were training in the same jiu-jitsu gym together. Yeah. And that guy, I don't know if I should mention his name or not. I don't know if I should.
I don't think you should.
Yeah. He was someone I trained with and stuff and knew that I was walking this path. And so he had seen the changes I was going through and we had talked about them. And that's why he shared them with Josh. And that really is the pivotal moment that led to Josh coming to me. And so when Josh came to me, I had understood this skill development journey. So I explained to Josh that we would not be jumping into plant medicine usage, that we would be looking at, different types of somatic and trauma-informed therapies first, that we would then get into what others might call meditation, I call not doing.
Okay.
Which is just sitting still. One of the really great metrics of determining someone's level of unresolved trauma is to sit them down and just shut up for a while. And people that have a lot of trauma, that can be a very difficult and uncomfortable experience. And so that to me is just simply a skill deficit. So what I'm seeing is that we have a Western psychiatric care model that says that mental health is luck of the draw and a chemical concoction that we're just going to figure out for you and maybe talk about a few problems that you've had in your life. Versus the model that I'm bringing to the foreground is that mental health is no accident whatsoever and is simply a product of how skilled you are, which for me is just another metaphorical extension of my martial arts practice. So that's what I began sharing with Josh, and we began doing that. And as he said, connecting with nature is the third root fundamental, which brings you face to face with mortality and the cycles of life and death, and also not doing again. And then what you start to see is that these root fundamentals are completely interconnected. So right away with not doing, if you sit someone still, they go into trauma responses, then that's connected to the first root fundamental, which is exposing and processing past trauma. So, and that's this journey that I was sharing with Josh. And so we went down that road, I think, for quite a while before we did finally delve into the usage of spirit medicine. And at that point, Josh was really in need of a breakthrough. There was just the family dynamic, the difficulty with raising a large family. Josh has a lot of kids.
Yeah.
He has a lot of responsibilities. And so we took a decisive step and we really went for it. And he had that breakthrough. Yeah. And that was a journey. And I can't believe how many years have already passed. It passed in the blink of an eye, because we've been at Psychedelics for almost 5 years now. And that began probably 3 years before that. Yeah, something like that.
At least.
So, at least, maybe more. So I'm a very slow practitioner when it comes to plant medicine. Now, I don't necessarily think Kambo really fits into that slow role like that. But I do think when it comes to ayahuasca or psilocybin even, or LSD or more powerful things, that I think the slow roll is a better bet. I've had it, not necessarily intentionally, but I've worked with other veterans, one that I'm still currently working with, We spent a year before we actually did a psilocybin full session with him. And the reason was I prescribed him what I call not doing homeworks.
Yeah.
And he had begun a toxic relationship with cannabis. He was using cannabis in conjunction with dopamine stimulating activities like screen times and video game and pornography and these type of things. And so he knew it was an issue. And I said to him, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. I want you to, when you decide to use cannabis, to refrain from the screen times. Mm-hmm. And that's the bargain. I'm not telling you to stop cannabis. I'm telling you that's what I want. Just sit still. And so sit still for several hours. And if you go to sleep, nothing wrong with that. He was so against and resistant to sitting still that he had not gone a day without cannabis for several years at this point. He went without cannabis for over 2 months.
Wow.
Because he was serious about getting better. And that's why I really commend him for that. He was serious about getting better. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, I got to choose one or the other. So he chose the screen time, the avoidance, the activity versus, the plant medicine and sitting still. So anyway, those are just all kind of funny stories about how trauma can influence your behaviors and avoiding some of these things. But yeah, that's how me and Josh really began working and the way that we began working together.
Do you want to share anything about your experience? How kind of you're like whatever you feel comfortable, because I feel like you have a lot you could share if you want to, whatever you want to share.
About what specifically?
Like your journey, because I feel like you had a lot to go through in life, and then it, took you to Kambo and what he's talking about, with whole like.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess I grew up. I guess you say I was an activist. Mm-hmm. An activist in my youth, early youth, kind of really rebellious against the government, all that stuff, and I wasn't so. I guess I was still in my early youth, in my 20s, and I had the near-death experience. That was kind of like, I felt like, Neo waking up out of the Matrix. That was my whole, catalyst, I guess, for my spiritual awakening.
Right.
Which, being raised Catholic, I didn't really understand at the time. I mean, I had some concepts of, Jesus and other things, but I was really anti-caste religion, organized religion this time in my youth, and when I had near-death experience. But I already had experience, cannabis and mushrooms, and I was, like I said, the medicine man. I was the dude who helped people acquire those medicines in my early youth without incriminating myself. So I had an abundance of mushrooms in my early youth, and I would experiment, and especially post near-death experience, I had some amazing breakthroughs where the first time I even ran, because I was in a wheelchair for a while. I had to learn to walk again. One time I was at the beach on mushrooms, and I think I had a crutch. I was on one crutch at one time, hopping in the sand. But I just threw the crutch, and I tried running for the first time, and it was like, peaking on mushrooms. Seemed like a good idea at first, and it was amazing, and I did it. Obviously, maybe after 40-yard dash, I was in extreme pain with all the metal in my hip and everything. But it was these little moments I had on, mushrooms that really was I would say the catalyst to me wanting to seek all right, what's happening with this medicine, these experiences, and my parents, be mad why don't you go back to church and be thankful for God or Jesus and saving your life? And I was I talk to Jesus and God when I'm on mushrooms in the forest or at the beach, and I felt I had a good relationship with God, but people couldn't understand that, and I didn't really understand what spirituality was or the name or anything. I didn't really do any research into that, or I didn't have any mentors or anything. So I would say I kind of battled. I kind of got into alcohol as most people, you know, in their 20s and 30s, especially with all the pain I was still dealing with. Um, and yeah, I kind of struggled with alcohol. It was probably the worst vice that kind of held me back. Dabbled into some bad drugs, nothing too crazy. But when I was turning 30, I kind of had another wake up call where I was living in New York, kind of like on the starving artist diet, eating pizza and drinking beer every day, and eating bean burritos or something. I don't know, but not a healthy diet. And I was just, I knew something was not healthy with the way, just my body. And I checked myself in. We did like the endoscopy, colonoscopy, all this stuff with my gut, and just trying to figure out why I was not, what was wrong with my stomach and everything. And basically at that time, they just basically said, you're an alcoholic, and I found out I was basically lactose intolerant, which was another thing that, all right, and I got to cut out dairy and alcohol. So I was just turned 30, and I just pretty much went cold turkey. But I moved back from New York to my hometown in Santa Ana, and I knew through mushrooms taught me, like, all right, like, I done so many mushrooms for so many years. It was like one thing I took away was like, all right, like, you gotta there's other ways to access these ways of enlightenment without depending on these tools and these medicines. So it taught me was meditation, and I would just try to do it myself, but I hadn't, like I said, no mentor or teacher. So I moved back to Santa Ana, and someone told me, oh, you want to do meditation, you should go check out this yoga house, and it was called the House of Guru Ram Das, right, to go learn Kundalini yoga meditation. And I was like, Kundalini, what the heck is this? But I checked out the website, and there's some old dude looking like a wizard, like Gandalf the White, with like in space, outer space, and it looked like it was old, like the first websites, from like probably the 80s or 90s, and it was it just seemed so cool. Like, who's this dude? Like a wizard over here in outer space meditating, and it's like in the hometown in downtown Santa Ana. Like, how did I never know this existed? And long story short, I went there, real skeptical, but I got hooked, and I felt great every time I did the meditation myself, the yoga classes, and that's pretty much around that time, 2012 or so, more or less. Not only did I find that, I got baptized into the Native American church with peyote medicine, and I was constantly just sitting in peyote ceremonies and in teepee ceremonies, and with peyote, or constantly in yoga meditation classes. I jumped into a teacher training program pretty early into that, like a couple years into that practice. Then I opened up my own studio, which I had for 9 years in downtown Santa Ana, the 8th Chakra Studio. Where we led a bunch of Kundalini yoga meditation classes, sound baths, everything you can think of. All these cool elders came by, did limpias. We had every kind of workshop, tarot reading, everything you can think of under the sun. We offered Kambo, like early into that one for like after the first year or two, we started offering Kambo ceremonies, and that was like unheard of. Like a lot of people still don't even know what that is, but. My wife had a studio in LA. We had opened up the Bodhi Healing Studio right next to her crystal shop, and it was pretty much, like a full-time thing at that point. It was like whatever I was offering at my studio in Santa Ana, we was also offering at her space in LA. So, I just kind of been down that path. I go down that route for the past 10 years, or I guess 12 now or so, more or less now. So it's kind of how I kind of got in more or less into this work. A couple of stories I did maybe wanted to share that I'm kind of like,
go ahead.
But we're talking about grief, because this is like kind of like a topic of the show, and a topic that kind of actually brought you back into my life, because we grew up together in school and all that stuff. Kambo has been a great tool. And not only myself dealing with grief from losing friends and people who become people who come to my Kambo ceremonies who I can become friends with, and whether they're dealing with cancer or something, this is not something that people talk about in this type of work that I'm in, and it's something that I wanted to bring up, and it's like, I'm close to death, you know, sometimes where I'm kind of like, or sometimes I have people, and one case when I found out a brother of mine, a friend of mine, who went to retreats to, you know, Sedona, did, you know, a bunch of medicine, Kambo with us, you know, a year passed, and I was like, man, I haven't seen, you know, this brother, and then a mutual friend said, oh yeah, he took his life, and, you know, and it was like,
Oh wow.
yeah, certain things were like, wow, it was like, you know, weighs heavy on me or my person and myself, and, um, you know, I've helped people who, you know, this wife had lost her husband,
Yeah.
and literally like her friends literally kind of tricked her into coming to my studio thinking she was coming to a yoga class, but they had paid for her to do combo, and which she knew a little bit about, but basically the surprise combo ceremony for her and with other people there in my studio, and um, her going through that, it was probably, you know, like a really, you know, recent, you know, her losing her husband, and there was not a dry eye in that studio.
Yeah.
We were all going through her really grieving, crying, weeping, and like she tripped out. She was like, when she came to do when I was sat with me, when I was giving her the medicine, I had like a bunch of crazy stuff in my studio, right? But I had an owl's right next to me, and she was like, oh my God, like, you know, some like figuring. I got, you know, the third star on the walls, and she was like, oh, my husband, he loved owls, like, and I was like, yeah, his spirit's here with you, you know. And it was like, I was like, his spirit's here with you, you know, watching you, and you know, she's like, wow, and she just felt like this amazing, you know, just like at peace all of a sudden, and then she went through, you know, her combo experience, you know, 15, 20-minute purge, and she was crying, she was weeping, and then, like I said, there was not a dry eye in the studio because we all felt her pain, and it was like a deep, powerful ceremony, and but the end of it, it was like we all like soul family, we all like were like, it was like a happiness of like wow, like she was at peace finally, where she was like, you know, obviously it's just, it's something hard to lose your, you know, your partner you're married with and lived for how many, you know, decades or how long, but that was a powerful moment, and you know, I always like to share that story with some people because, you know, it really impacted me, and yeah, so still in this and you know, been dealing with this medicine, and one of the close persons that actually taught me this medicine, my good brother Bryce, actually was like a year maybe older than me, passed away, you know, a few years ago, and that was a tough one because he was like, yeah, my soul brother, he helped me and my wife, you know, bring in two babies into this world with the medicine that he offered us and brought into our family, and that process itself was like really difficult for me to even talk about. I don't even tell many people this story, and this is why I felt like maybe it's time for me to like get this off my own chest, and like, but through my own practice with combo, my own self, you know, there's times even the last few times I did combo, like last month, I cried both times, you know, and I'm like, and I realized, you know, I'm a father, I'm like, I'm a man, whatever, you know, my middle name is Guerrero. I'm a warrior. I have that warrior spirit. So I never show my kids crying, you know, all that stuff. You know, I try to be tough and all that, you know, whatever. Just like that machismo in us and whatever. But being able, when you're doing combo, you're able, as you guys in experience, you're able to just release. And there's times of like, you know, he always obviously comes into my memory, especially when I'm doing this medicine, and it's able for me to just finally just like that crying comes out, and it's just like it's always the beginning of crying of like. Of that grief of like the sorrow, the sadness, you know, losing someone so close to you, and then towards the end of it, it's like a crying of like of happiness of like, I'm at peace. I know they're at peace, and the whole point of them to be resting in this peace is not like to be, you know, calling them back like, oh, I wish they were here, you know, like everybody came here for a certain time for a certain mission, and unfortunately, some of us got to check out sooner than others, and yeah, it's just, it makes me like, and it's taught me so much about life and appreciation of life. Not only, you know, nearly dying in my 20s, but just, like I said, having people in my life who constantly, are like, you know, are passing on into that spirit realm. And I'm blessed that I have this medicine because it, like I said, it's helps me heal my own self from all this stuff I'm dealing with other people and helping them on their own healing process. And, you know, it's like heavy weight sometimes, you know, you got to carry, you know, like, I think about like a doctor's or even my good cousin who's a firefighter. he's dealing with PTSD, and and it's like he's dealing because he sees people, as being a firefighter, every day, people whether they're hurt, hospital, you name it, shot, everything you can think of, and so he's seizing it all and everything, and just like it made me like, wow, like there's lots of other people, in all types of services that field, whether nurses or not, everything like you can think of that dealing with PTSD, some forms of PTSD, and I myself have tons of PTSD. I'm still like get triggered by certain things and nearly faint. I see my blood or certain things, and it's like it's a process. It's not a one it's combo or any medicine, ayahuasca, bufo, DMT, all that stuff is not a one and done type of thing. Mm-hmm. People sometimes want a quick fix. Oh, I want something to help me, heal this trauma, and it's like. People don't realize they're signing up for this is like a lifestyle. This is a way of living in a sense where, we've got trauma in us, embedded us in a deep cellular level that's been here embedded in for generations, right? They've done all these tests on rats and mice or whatever, and they realize, as they're constantly, affecting, like they're affected for generations. The same thing for human beings,
Right.
and one thing I've learned through working with ancestral medicines is we're healing. Not only ourselves in this time and space, but we're healing the 7 generations, 7 generations of our whole ancestors, 7 generations of moving forward of our children, the children's children, and I feel like this is my duty, like becoming from an activist background. I feel like I, went through a lot of crazy life experiences and being a lot of different protests and riots and all that crazy stuff, but everything you can think of, and it became transformed into, I would say, like a spiritual activist.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people, like, politics is just a show. It's just a movie. Don't get caught up in that, And I always tell people, this your spirit, your soul. That's the most valuable thing you could probably, is be really in tune with, And if you don't believe that, then you're probably, programmed. You don't realize, you're a victim of this whole spiritual war that's going on, and it's in our society. It's becoming more prevalent. It's becoming more. The veil is lifted. More people are waking up to whatever you want to call it, this battle of good and evil or whatever. This craziness is going on in the world. So, but yeah, I'm glad I have these types of medicines and tools to stay grounded.
Yeah.
And stay in tune with my soul, my spirit, and connected to God through whatever. And but yeah. So I just wanted to share that.
It's great. Yeah, I'm glad you're sharing that.
Times within a blink of an eye.
That's what makes the world magic.
That's right.
There's a whole huge population of people who think this world is what they see with their eyes when they're in their day-to-day sober life.
Yeah.
The mundane world, and they think that's all there is to it. And it's actually a product of something that happened over probably 20,000 years or so, because this is where that naturalistic viewpoint that I was telling you about kind of comes from for me. When you look at the way indigenous hunter and gatherers looked at the world, everything was spiritual.
Yeah.
So nothing is an object. Everything is alive with a consciousness, an awareness, an interconnected spiritual relationship. The planet is a great mother. The sun is a spiritual entity. The forests, the streams, the lakes, the ocean, the ancestors are in the salmon and the buffalo and the local, animals that live. And so then their treatment of their surroundings is different. The plant life are the wisdom bringers. They have wisdom. It's a strange way to think from a Western agrarian technologically advanced mentality. We don't think that way. And in doing that, what we've created is very much, we live in the Matrix. It is the real thing. That first movie was unbelievable. If you really think about how powerful a message it was, we're only one step away from really having the thing connected in the back of our heads. I mean, it really is that.
Yeah.
It took this 20,000 years of generational programming to bake it into people to such a level that it's not even a question. That we're just living in this material world. What matters is the money and the basic things and the things that we're chasing in the rat race. And no consideration of death. Sweep it under the rug. We don't even want to think about that. Let's not even worry about that. And in that world is a world of misery where there's no magic. You know, when I had one of my most powerful facilitated journeys, and this one was on psilocybin, when I came face to face, her name's Nicole that passed, with her after her death. She had spoken to me several times after she died in different ways, and still does to this day, sometimes in different ways. But in this vision, it was one of the most amazing things I experienced. I was doing a guided trauma work therapy session with someone that I work with, and I was on a moderate dose of psilocybin. And I heard her voice. She began speaking to me. And it wasn't just her voice, it was her essence. Her smell, her spirit.
Yeah.
And then I was whisked away. I was actually pulled out of my body, and I shot off the planet, out of the solar system, out of the galaxy, into a completely different galaxy, to a star that had a planet around it. And it was an Earth-like planet. It had oceans and forests, trees, and life on it. And it turned out the voice and the essence I was getting, she had become the Gaia. She was the Gaia spirit of this planet around another star. Mm-hmm. And on her were all these life forms, including early like hominid style primates that were intelligent, were living on her surface. And she was telling me, hey, you know, everything's fine. And then it was an understanding of how beyond our comprehension any of it is. And so we've turned death into this really scary and negative thing. And what we have to spend our entire lives doing is coming to terms with the fact that it isn't that.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of my great examples that I love to point to is the Buddhist monk Thich Quang Duc, who was the man who protested the Vietnam War. And I believe it was 1963 in Saigon when he lit himself on fire, he self-immolated. The thing about Thich Quang Duc, which became this lasting image, is the fact that he sat in the lotus position, meditating, and didn't move a muscle, didn't make a sound, died peacefully in approximately 10 minutes of just burning on fire, that is quite a feat. That is an example of what is possible if you put your mind towards the meditation, towards the work, towards everything. Because here's the truth, right? We're all going through these struggles. We're going through these emotional journeys. We're going through raising children or facing challenges or, you know, having people die. If you are able to attain what that man attained, you beat the matrix.
Yeah.
You're no longer in the matrix anymore. And plant medicines are amazing tools, but that's why I don't just focus on them as the thing, because just like Andre's saying, we get a lot of those folks who come and say, hey, you know, I've heard about this thing called DMT, and I just know it's what's going to fix me. Right. And it's hard to even get that idea out of their head, even though they don't know what DMT is. They don't know anything about what this stuff is about, you know. And in their mind, they've got it figured out. This is the next miracle thing. I heard Joe Rogan talk about it. This is it, right? And so it's so hard to get people to begin to realize, like, you've got a whole lifetime of deprogramming and beginning to reach a point where you think for yourself, where you're not just regurgitating someone else's thoughts,
right.
Where you actually come into your own consciousness and then begin to connect with this spirit that's within you and connected to the entire universe that is millions, if not billions of years old and so much wiser than anything that we can come up with in our small language-based, what the Toltecs would call the tonal. The tonal is a small island, and this infinite space beyond that is the true journey. So I think we're all wrestling with, you know, going through PTSD that I've been through and deep, you know, visceral fear of death at times and different things I've been through. I hate flying. God, I hate flying. I'm claustrophobic and afraid of heights. So I'm about to take a flight next week. I did skydiving because I wanted to face that fear, and in some ways probably similar to what Kambo might be like. It was good. But yeah, and it's not a one and done. It didn't fix my fear. I'm still afraid of heights,
Right.
but I'm glad I did it. But I think what's happening is that we have a world based on control.
Yeah.
And these people that lived before all that were not, that wasn't what they operated from. They didn't operate from control. And there's really a great movie about this with Anthony Hopkins called Instinct. And if you watch that movie, it's funny. It's about him living with these lowland mountain gorillas. And eventually he just goes, why am I living as a human? The human life is a miserable one. And he just goes and ends up with these girls. And you have to watch the movie to see the rest of it. I won't ruin it for anyone. But that's what I think we need to find. Because as a species, and what Andre was saying, like it's his duty to heal people, that we're healing generations in this work. I couldn't agree more, because I think as a species right now, we're facing a very serious existential threat of extinction. We may kill ourselves off and many, many other species on this planet and go through another huge round of evolution.
Yeah.
And it won't be the end of the world if that happens, by the way. From the spiritual perspective that I'm now operating from, if that happens, we'll be sitting here again. We might be little gray men with big heads. We might be, who knows, whatever the science fiction writers can come up with, that might be what we are. But we'll be here again until we get it right. Because our karmic journey is to become truly in harmony with our planet, while engaging with this massive intelligence and ability to develop technology to travel to other stars. And I guarantee you there's life forms out there that would imagine the adventure, because they won't be toxic, they won't be dangerous. Any living form that's achieved interstellar capability without the destruction of themselves, because you have to think about what that means to go from no technology through all the nuclear possibilities, through all the weaponry possibilities, through everything to the point where you're able to travel to another star. There's no way you're maintaining an egoic mindset of parasitic extraction and dominance. And so that, I think, is where we're headed. But in order to do that, we need to heal this trauma, and we got a long ways to go right now.
I don't feel like it ever ends, though.
No, it's never ending.
It's forever. I think you just have to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And try to want to get better,
Yeah.
That mindset. Do you want to share anything?
It's kind of, I want to say, appreciate both of you sharing your stories. It's so rich and every way, really. I mean, we talked about all kinds of stuff, including grief. Grief seems to have come up, I mean, quite a bit, to be honest, and even your experience with the car. I mean, that's facing death. It's facing a possibility of your own personal grief.
Yeah.
And, grief is a very difficult thing for a lot of people. And I just kind of want to bring my father into the conversation a little bit. He passed away this October will be 2 years. And he died during open heart surgery. So it was not expected. However, I kind of knew something was up. This was his second surgery within 6 months. And I had a conversation with him prior to him going in for the surgery. And all this was like, hey, Dad, do I need to come and see you, like, right now? Like, should I jump on an airplane? Kid, I'm not going to ask you to do that. He's on the East Coast. I'm on the West Coast. It's quite a distance away. And, I was like, I mean, like, what are we looking at here? Like, because he's kind of quiet about his health. He doesn't communicate it very much in that time of his life. And even before, just very private about those things, and which I actually don't really agree with. But, for the sake of the story, I'll just kind of go through that. He's like, yeah, it's pretty serious. Open heart surgery is always serious. And I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. Of course. But what are your chances? He's like, yeah, it's not good. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to arrange a plane ticket. When's your surgery? he's like, they didn't give me a time or a day. This was early in the week. And he's like, I'm thinking maybe Friday. And it was like a Monday. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll fly out tomorrow. Tomorrow came, you know, I'm like looking at plane tickets. I gave him a call. And he's like, hey, they're rushing me in for surgery right now. I'm like, fuck, right? You know, I don't know any other word to say. It is literally that. I'm like, I'm at a loss for words. I'm like, okay. So I spent quite a bit of time talking with him. And I've had a good relationship with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't always like that. I was a rebellious teen, too. You know, my dad and I loved him. I loved him so much, but I couldn't live with him. My mom and my dad split. I'm a divorced kid, you know, so I experienced that. And they were good. They were friendly, so they tried their best to kind of have like some kind of a tribe, you know. And I remember one time he was in the kitchen of his house. We lived by a river, and he said something to me, and I smarted off to him. You know, I gave him like an attitude. So he'd come over and like kind of intimidate me, and I think I was like, I told him to fuck off, and he smacked me right across the face. So I kicked him in his nuts, and then we got in a fight, you know. So I'm like, I think I was like 16 at this time, and we're fighting, and he like punched me in the face. I got stitches and everything, and we're just really battling. And I was at that point, I was like, Dad, I don't think I can live with you anymore. So I moved back with my mom. But we maintained a relationship. I see him like all the time. I just couldn't live in his house.
Yeah.
And it was like once I joined the Marines and I actually left his presence for good. I never went back to where I grew up. I visit there, not very often, but I visit. That really changed. Like I watched my dad cry when I left. And I shared that with him. I actually had an experience. I'm like, I didn't know he cared that much.
Yeah.
You know, for like you to tell, you know, you to say your story, it's like sometimes you gotta cry with the kids, you know. And I realize that I'm kind of a macho guy too, so I don't cry very often around my kids. But when I learned to do that, the bond grew so much tighter because they're like, oh wait, dad's a human being too. You know, he's not just an emotional, you know, I don't know, robot, right? And that actually was something that I carried forward. Anyway, when I experienced that with him, I was like, my dad loves me. He really does care. And what I miss most about my father was that, and I don't want to like badmouth anybody else in my family, but my dad actually made a huge effort to make sure that I knew that on a consistent basis. There's times with other family members that I don't talk for months. My dad would not let that happen. Mm-hmm. He was calling me at least like once a week. You know, 2 weeks go by, he'd be like, hey man, what's going on? You know, he'd give me a call, hey, call me back. Some other family members I've had, I hate to say this, but there's a time where I didn't talk to one particular person for over a year.
Yeah. And
they were really close to me. And in a way that helped me, I started to learn a lot about myself in that pain. That was painful. Mm-hmm. And I started learning a lot about myself, you know, and I started just really exploring that. But going back to my dad and this you know, what I'm trying to paint here is that I missed that in him. And when I got a chance to really understand that he is about to pass away, sometimes we get intuition, right? Like sometimes God speaks to us. God spoke to me months before it happened. And God said, hey, you know, Dad's not going to be around forever. And I listened. Sometimes in the past, I didn't listen. And I let those you know, instances like, it's not a big deal. But I actually learned a lot of this from Lou. You know, that we have to listen when the messages come through and sit with it, not push it away, because that's the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine what happens when you push your spirit away. I lost myself when that happens. I lost my humanity, I lost my love, I lost my connection. And, you know, when I listen to that, you know, I like to share this story sometimes with Anna, and I feel it's appropriate. The message that came through is like, hey, Dad's not going to be around for long, you know, forever. I picked up the guitar. I never played a musical instrument. Matter of fact, when I was a kid, my dad wouldn't let me play music. He let my brother play, but he wouldn't let me play because I wanted to play the drums. Drums were expensive, and it's a racket. My brother chose the guitar. He got the guitar, and I couldn't share it. I wasn't even allowed to touch the thing. As soon as I touch it, there would be like this huge, like crybaby kind of thing going on, and it was massive. So I learned from an early age to not touch my brother's guitar. So I just didn't play music, and I would go out in the woods and do other things. I learned to be by myself a lot. I love solitude. You know, loneliness is something else, you know, like, and that goes along with grief too. And I learned to master loneliness, you know, within myself through other experiences. But going back to this, you know, like my dad's saying, you know, all right, I play guitar too. You know, he plays guitar, I play guitar, and I'm going up to my dad. I'm actually saying this. I'm saying, hey, I want to play with you. And to my surprise, my dad said no. And we're on just FaceTime. You know, like I live 3,000 miles away from him. And I had to not get offended. And that was really hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
I had the lump in my throat. We're on the phone. I'm like, all right, Dad, I understand. It's not a big deal. By the way, I didn't expect us to make a record. You know, I just wanted to play.
Yeah.
Just a little bit with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not make a big deal about it. I'm just learning. I don't even know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even know what a chord is at this point. I'm just like, hey, look what I can do with this one string. You know, and I can move my finger a little bit and make a note. And that's about as far as I got with it. And, you know, after I told him that, took him about 2 or 3 minutes. He goes and picks up his damn guitar and he starts playing. I was like, Dad, why'd you have to tell me no? You know what I mean? Like, why don't you just say, okay, let's try? But that's the way he was sometimes. Sometimes he's like, fuck with you a little bit. And I don't know if that's exactly what he was doing or maybe he was just insecure. You know, maybe he just wasn't sure. I don't know. I just didn't really go into it. All I knew is that when he picked up the guitar and we played together, I healed.
Yeah.
Something inside me healed, and I was missing music in my life. Music was something that in my healing journey was absent.
Yeah.
And in that absence, I needed to kind of bridge that gap, and my dad was part of that bridge. I had to kind of explore this. I had to put myself out. I had to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know, and if he didn't play with me, okay, was I going to stop playing? Absolutely not. I was going to play anyway. But him actually playing with me kind of gave me a little extra oomph, you know, a little juice in there. And that was the only time we played. We didn't play many more other times at all. He sent me some music that he played, and that's all I got really from him. I don't have like massive recordings or anything. He's not like a rock star anyway, so it's not like he played and recorded. He was more like I play in my room by myself kind of guy, you know. And months and months passed. You know, I'm talking to him a lot. I'm having conversations with him. You know, I'm spending extra time to make sure reaching out. Because I knew. He didn't know. Or maybe he did. I'm not sure. But he didn't really say anything. And I listened to that intuition. And the day before he passed away, I sat with him and I talked to him, and he's not thinking that he's gonna pass away. And I'm like, Dad, I'm getting this feeling. If you were to pass away, is there anything you'd like to say to the loved ones? Can I pass a message?
Mm-hmm.
And of course he says no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, no pressure, Dad. You know, like there's a dance here that I learned with him, you know, and I'm like, no pressure. But there's nothing that you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I got something out of him, you know, and it was really nice. He just said, hey, I really want everybody to know that I love them. And, you know, if, you know, I don't make it through, to keep living your life and,
Yeah.
you know, keep doing, you know, good by each other, come together, don't separate. Because he was kind of a glue. He's the glue of the family. He had my cousins, you know, they all lost their parents. Like,
Yeah.
my dad's siblings, he had 3 siblings, and they all passed away. My grandfather's still alive.
Yeah.
He's 90 years old,
Wow.
and he lost all of his children, all of his biological children. You know, he has adopted children that are alive, but all of his biological children died. I don't know that kind of grief,
Right.
but I do know the grief about losing my father,
Yeah.
and that was hard. I don't know what it's like to lose a child. I can imagine that being some of the worst pain, right? That a person can go through. And, you know, what I learned from losing a parent was to go through and go into the pain of the grief
Exactly.
and to not avoid it. And what I started with was I just kind of had to start thinking about his name. The day after, you know, like I got a chance to be on a FaceTime call. They brought the phone into, and this is actually an interesting part of the story. Before I go into what I did after he passed, I actually want to mention this. They brought a phone FaceTime call, and this is after the surgery, and they're like, "Hey, you could say goodbye." Basically, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna take him off the life assist, and I'm like, I really didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of did, but I was like, are you serious? This is it? You know, because I was thinking the surgery could have possibly gone right, but
Yeah.
it was taking too long. And so all my kids are there, and we're all saying goodbye except for one of my children. He's at work.
Yeah.
And he was the closest to my dad because he's my first. And I stalled him. Because they wanted me off the phone in 5 minutes. They were going to give me 5 minutes, click, that was it. And well, right, where we talk about like how we deal with death in this society.
You got 5 minutes.
Right, you got 5 minutes.
So crazy.
You got 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, at the funeral home, that was all we get. We get 1 hour with him at the funeral home because they're cremating him. So the family only gets 1 hour. The way society deals with death, I am not happy with at all. So I got 5 minutes, but I said, the guy who was holding the phone was my dad's best friend, and I told him, hey, don't hang up this phone. I'm coming. I'm going to come and see you. So don't hang up this phone. Right? I didn't threaten. It wasn't a threat. I'm just like, hey, I'm going to come and see you. You got to see me. Don't hang up this phone. And he didn't hang up the phone. He's like, we're going to have to call security, all kinds of stuff. I'm like, just don't hang it up. And I'm pleading with my father at this moment to come back alive. And stalling so that my son can say bye to him. And he's only like 10 minutes away, so like it's within the window. And you know, I'm playing with a little bit of fire here, but I don't mind. I'll play with fire. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I made it. He made it. Also, you know, my son. I almost didn't mention his name, but he made it, and he got a chance to say goodbye. So everybody in my little family got a chance to say goodbye. We even played some music for my dad, you know, and as I began the end of the conversation, I didn't want to, and I pled with him, and I'm trying to get him to come back. I'm like, maybe there's a way I can call him back. Sometimes when you're in that state, even like a psychedelic state, you got to call back the spirit of the person to come back to life. I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. You know, I don't have anything to lose here other than my father. So the interesting thing that happened, and this allowed me to kind of let him go, was that, and there's no sounds in this room, and all of a sudden I hear this beep, 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 and it was his heart came back alive, and then it went, and what I see from that, the experience that I got from that was, he's just saying, like, hey, okay, it's time. I have to go. But he wanted to say bye. He wanted to say goodbye too.
Yeah.
And he couldn't talk. I mean, like he's under everything. He couldn't
Right.
talk, and that, I don't know. I just see that as maybe I got through. You know, maybe I did get a chance to just say goodbye to him, because that's really all I really wanted. And it was like more than just a goodbye. It was more important than a goodbye. It was like, I'll see you later.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see you later.
Yeah.
We'll be together again. And it hurt, of course, you know, and then I'll talk about like what I did kind of go through this grieving process, but the reason that I did that was because of the message that we'll see each other again, you know, and I began to clear room for him in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to do that, I knew I had to go through the pain of grief.
Mm-hmm.
I started with just thinking about his name. I would cry. I would like bawl my eyes out. And once I stopped crying anytime I thought of his name, I wrote it down. And I bawled my eyes out again. And until I was at a point where I could write his name and not cry, then I moved to the next step, which is photo. And I processed that each time as photo, video, audio. And that was so that I can actually go and see him. I had to get on a plane many hours to get there. And I didn't really want to carry that energy in the plane, because I don't like flying either. I hate it. You know, it's terrifying to me.
Mm-hmm.
I do it. I get sick. Everything. It's miserable. And it's not a short flight. Every time I take a flight, it's 5-6 hours. So I'm like, this is horrible. And I don't like being in with a lot of people. You know, it's that thing. But I knew I had to do that because I had to go see my father and put him to rest. And I was able to. I was able to go in his house. I even challenged myself so much, and this is actually kind of a really interesting story. While I was at his house grieving, I chose to sleep at his house one night. And again, it was so that I could challenge myself to grieve and let go and make room for him. And he had a bed in his basement. And I think sometimes he had to sleep down there because he snored, and the wife was like, you gotta sleep down in the basement, guy. And I did. I slept in the basement bed, and it's a basement. Like it's a big bed, but it's a basement. You know, there's not bugs or anything all over the place, but you're in a low level. And the area that we're talking about is a very old area. There's a lot of activity here for a long time. I began to experience some very interesting negative emotions and anxiety while I was in the bed. And I'm in pitch dark. We're pitch dark. And I'm like, oof, what is this? And I start feeling these really tense grips on my feet. I have my wife on the phone. I'm like, hey, look, something's happening here. There's something in this house. And it's not, I can't, it doesn't feel like my father. There's something else in this house. And I want to spend time with whatever this spirit is of anxiety that I'm feeling. And she's like, okay, I'll help you. And she does, you know, her thing. She's like kind of helping me on the other side of the phone. And I'm breathing through this, and it takes 3 hours to really communicate with what I'm trying to communicate with, and we'll say ghost spirits or whatever it is. And what happened was, at one point, there was one very strong spirit there and threw a pillow at my face from across the room.
Wow.
That's how strong this was. It was crazy. I'm like, Dad, what the hell is going on in your house, bro? You know, and my stepmother, the next day, she goes, hey, did you come up and lay with me in bed? I'm like, no, I didn't come and lay with you in bed. I was down in that bed, and then I was done with it. You know, I was like, all right, 4 hours. They wouldn't leave me alone, and I'm like, I'm just going to go up to sleep on the couch, you know, with the light on. I was tired of the dark, and then that's what she asked me. I'm like, no, it wasn't me. I did not lay with you. So there's like something really strong going on in the house. But that was, again, part of my grieving process. It's like, hey, I need to try to clear some space here to bring in my father, so that I, you know, have a place of love, a place of warmth, a place of gratitude and thanks. And, you know, anyway, that's a little bit of what I wanted to share. I just want to share that. I know that was actually kind of, you know, an interesting part of tying together some of this grief that we're talking about. So I'll just kick it back to you and see if you have anything else you want to ask anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all lost people. It just makes you grateful that we're still here. And I'm just thankful that you guys all agreed to be on the podcast and sharing your stories. Maybe we could just play a little game and go a little lighter on it, since...
Yeah, right?
Sure.
It's time to lighten things up,
I mean, I feel like we're all, you know... I feel like I made Dre cry on the last one. You made me cry on this one. So it's like a game called Would You Rather. You want to play?
Yeah, sure.
All right, I'll go around. So, coffee, or would you drink coffee or drink tea?
I got a new answer. I'm gonna go with tea.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Lou?
It's a tough one. Coffee's a funny thing for me, and caffeine is something I'm very sensitive to. I really like the smell of coffee. But when I drink coffee, I drink a mixture of around 20 to 30% caffeinated, 70 to 80% decaf. So I do my own sort of mix. It would depend. I really like a Rooibos tea sometimes. I like the way I feel after green tea. I don't know which one. It would depend on the day.
Okay.
I don't know.
What about you?
You know, I'm kind of in the same boat as Lou, to be honest with you. I actually don't only drink decaffeinated coffee.
Okay.
Every once in a while I'll drink caffeinated coffee, but it's kind of rare, and it kind of gets me in a weird feeling. But I really like the flavor. But I also really like tea. I guess if I had to, I was on a desert island or whatever. Or was, you know, somebody's like, "Hey, you gotta choose." I'd probably pick, like, you know, ginger tea with some mint in it or something. You know, like, I like that a lot.
I really like the oregano tea that you make.
Oregano tea is really good too.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Never had that before until you.
Yeah, it tastes like a pizza and a.
Yeah, I like oregano.
I gotta try that. I gotta try that.
Yeah.
Sleep in late or wake up early?
Wake up early.
How about you?
Oh, I'm sleeping late all the time. I'm a night owl, and it's funny because I think it's in my family. I have family overseas in France, and I just spoke to a cousin of mine a while ago, and she was like, "No way, I'm not getting started before 10 a.m." I started usually a little bit sooner than that, but yeah, not a morning person. I'm a surfer too. I won't even wake up for dawn patrol. Nope, not happening.
What about you?
Oh, up early.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Watch a movie or read a book?
Movie.
How about you?
Depends on the mood. I've read a lot of great books, changed my life, but I do love movies. So if it's a thing of like what I really want to do, I'm probably gonna choose a movie.
I'm probably gonna choose a movie too.
Movie?
Yeah.
Cook dinner or dine out?
Oh man, I got the whole family to think. I got kids. I got, you know, everybody's picky. You know. No, if I could, I like dining out.
Dine out?
I enjoy dining out. Yeah.
How about you?
Every one of these questions is hard. I got some specialties I cook. I cook some really great things. You
Like,
know?
go ahead.
I have an amazing barbecue chicken. I do a really good tri-tip. It's all meat stuff. I'm kind of a carnivore, but I'm I'm good at those things. I have some really good recipes for it. A zucchini soup. I make a great zucchini soup. It's got a chicken broth base in it, but it's nice to eat out and have people serve you and sit back and relax and talk with company and family. So
Yeah.
and not have to work, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it is similar. I always feel better when I cook my own food. So if I was to choose, I do like being served. I like going out to eat, but I like cooking my own food because I always feel better after I cook my own food.
Some truth to that, definitely.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Oh man,
Like neither. Not. I guess more of a chocolate person.
Yay. Lou?
Every single one of them. It's hard because it's the context of it. There's chocolate's great with some things. I really love the spiced vanilla. There's something amazing about that smell. There's that flavor of it. Chocolate, it would just barely beat it out, I think.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's like I like chocolate, like shakes, protein shakes, or like a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
But I hate chocolate ice cream. Vanilla.
Really?
Vanilla is my way. I don't like chocolate ice cream. I can have like one spoon and I'm done. I can't
That's
even eat
interesting.
it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But my all-time favorite is vanilla ice cream.
Wow.
Yeah. So I really don't know. Like both.
That's
it's gonna be a
different.
both for me.
Yeah, that's different.
That is different. Live in the country or live in the city?
I'm a city boy. I think. I love the country, but I'm like to be close to my family. Family first. I would say so. We live in the city, so yeah.
Lou?
This one's easy for me. Country all the way. I don't want to leave my family behind and go live in the country, but yeah, there's something about connecting with nature, being able to walk out your door and just that feeling where there's a certain freedom to nature and being away from it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I have experience in both places, and right now I live in kind of like right on the edge of the country, but there's a lot of development going on, so that's disappearing. But it's actually the city. The reason I picked that place is because it was kind of more closer to the country.
Not anymore.
But not anymore. So I would say the reason that I would pick the country over the city is because when I was a kid, it was probably the best time of my life because I grew up in the country. Four-wheelers, out in the woods, neighbors are far away. Oh, it was amazing.
Stay home or go out?
Oh man. Oh my God. No, there's times it was good to stay home and rest, but yeah, like you say, I could go out.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I get older, it's becoming more and more stay home, but when I have the right energy, going out is great. That's another tough one. I don't know. It depends.
yeah.
Yeah.
What about you?
I tend to stay home quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it at home.
Yeah.
But I also like to go out. But where I go out feels like home. It's like I go out in nature, and that feels like home to me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, kind of one and the same.
Yeah. Beach or mountain?
Ooh.
These are tough ones, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beach or mountain? I would definitely probably say maybe it's a tough one. I think I'd say the beach because the water element to the sand.
Mm-hmm.
As a kid, I used to go take the bus to the beach and, I'm not telling my parents, but I was, over there bodyboard or, body surfing and so yeah, really healing the ocean.
Yeah, I love them both, but I am a surfer, and
Yeah.
I'm a soul surfer. I surf purely for the ocean's my church. So yeah, it's definitely the beach.
Yeah, so for me, this is pretty interesting too because I love them both as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say it's seasonal. So certain seasons I'd rather be at the beach, and other seasons I absolutely want to be in the mountains. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Good answer, brother.
Yeah.
Can I take his answer? I'm going to take
Makes
his
sense.
answer.
Yeah, he nailed it. He nailed that one.
All right. Sushi or pasta?
Oh man, I'm pretty much a vegetarian, so I like sushi with my wife and here and now, but I guess I'm more of a pasta person. Yeah.
I switched to a ketogenic diet. I'm on very few carbs these days, and I feel so much better. I love pasta. Lasagna would probably be one of my tops. Ravioli, gnocchi. I love them all. So if it was purely on what I'd want to eat and who cares how I'm going to feel afterwards, I'll probably eat the pasta. But sushi's what I would eat nowadays, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Oh man, I like them both too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my kids make me some really great spaghetti sometimes. I taught them how to make it, the right way. Oh, anyway, but we really do like sushi too. I don't know how to make sushi, so I guess we'd have to say if I was going out to eat, I'd grab some sushi. If I was going to stay at home, I'd make my pasta. Yeah.
Summer or winter?
Oh man, I like the winter because my birthday's right around Christmas time, and I just love the season, So everybody's happy, most people.
How about yourself?
It's such a strange question, this one. As a kid, it was summer, but as I'm getting older, I've never been a fan of heat.
Mm-hmm.
The beach is great in the summer, so it is good surfing and stuff like that, but I like the cooler temperatures. I'm one of the weird people. I like gray days. I like clouds. I like rain. So probably winter.
Winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is also interesting too because I like the winter around here, but how much do we really experience winter?
Right, that's true too.
There was no winter. There was no winter this year, bro.
No winter.
Winter came back for like 2 weeks.
This wasn't.
I go and visit the winter up
Yeah.
in the mountains
Yeah.
when it's seasonal, right?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm getting a lot of the summer
Yeah.
around the whole year in San Diego. So it kind of gets old a little bit, and
Yeah.
I think I like the winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whatever winter we get.
Whatever. Then I can go visit it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't like shoveling snow. I grew up shoveling snow.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
No thanks. I'm cool with that. I'll go visit.
A bike ride or road trip?
Oh man, I'm a road trip person. I've driven cross country a couple times already.
Where do you want to go
Where do I want to go?
that you haven't gone?
Oh, I don't know. In my car, in the road.
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't know. I've gone everywhere I wanted, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Mexico's pretty crazy right now, so maybe north of the border or Canada in my car, but I don't really have any desire to go to Canada. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Got some trips planning up later this year to Sedona, Washington. Some places I'm gonna fly to, but I'll definitely drive to Sedona and things like that. But yeah, I'm a road trip person all day.
Bike ride or road trip?
Yeah, road trip. Yeah.
Where to?
Oh man, like he said, it is too bad that what happened with Mexico, because there was a time even when I was young, when I was a kid, it wasn't like it is now. That would be the coolest thing, to just drive from the southern tip of Chile all the way to as far as you could go into Alaska. That would be an epic road trip, I think. But I wouldn't take that risk right now. But I just think that would be cool.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
one.
What about yourself?
Probably a road trip with the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, always wanted to go take all my kids back to where I grew up, and that's a long trip.
Where'd you grow up?
In Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So we're talking about days.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've tried that. I've attempted this a couple times, save up for that trip, and each time, the world just kind of like changes, and everything gets more expensive.
Yeah.
So like one time I saved up $11,000 to take this trip, and then COVID happened, canceled everything. Next year, I bought plane tickets too for this, this trip. The next year, they gave me vouchers, and the plane tickets were so much higher, the vouchers never covered it. So it's like, okay, now I gotta try to find a way to sell these, to make this trip. So I couldn't, it didn't work, and then by the time the next time came around, it was again so expensive. And it's like every time I'm like, oh, I guess we're not really gonna take this trip. So
Yeah, now's not the time for a road trip, I'll tell you. Gas prices
that
were
gas price, whew, no
Yeah.
thanks. You know, so if I was to go anywhere with the kids, they always want to go back to Arizona. You know, we had a really good time there.
That's awesome. Okay, these are new ones. Ready? Batman or Spider-Man?
I grew up loving Batman,
Woo!
but with my kids now, I'm more of a Spider-Man person.
All right.
I feel like Batman's not a true, like, modified superhero. He's, you know what I mean? Batman really is. Batman's a supernatural, superhuman. Batman. Or not
Yay.
Batman. I mean Spider-Man.
Okay.
I was like confused. I was
I
like,
confused myself. Spider-Man is what.
How
Spider-Man.
about yourself?
Batman.
Yay!
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Halloween or Christmas?
Christmas, hands down. My birthday's right after Christmas, so
It is.
yeah.
How about you?
Oh man. First time I went to prison was on Halloween. Lost a bunch of people, died in Christmas.
man.
Can't say I'm a fan of either one of those. I'm good with them now, but that's not a great choice for me. I don't have an answer for that one.
Neither.
Yeah, neither.
Do you want to choose another holiday?
Oh man, you know what? I like the fall a lot. There's something about fall. Surfing in the fall is really great too. So we'll go with Halloween.
All right. How about yourself?
Yeah, like having the kids is something that I have in my life. So, and they like Halloween, but man, Christmas around my house is pretty fun. So say Christmas.
All right. M&Ms or Snickers?
Neither.
What do you like eat? Like, what's your chocolate?
I get like those healthy like almond butter, like Reese's cups or kind of,
Yeah.
like those ones,
Okay. All right. How about yourself?
I got a wicked sweet tooth. So, I mean, out of those two, definitely Snickers. But
Snickers.
there's so many. Yeah, when we get into the sweets. But that's probably why I'm on the keto diet, because I'm like a crackhead when it comes to the sugar.
What about yourself?
Yeah, that's funny. Crackhead one for sure. Yeah, so for me, when I was eating those kind of things, I hated Snickers. Like it was just something I wasn't into. I'd say M&Ms.
M&Ms?
Oh.
But only the peanut M&Ms.
Yeah, they're
'cause I don't
peanut
like-
M&Ms.
Yeah, the regular M&Ms.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Peanut.
Peanut or nothing. Not even like peanut butter or Reese's No, the ones with the peanuts in it.
Yeah, those are pretty good.
Yeah, those are bomb. Back when I was eating them, but I don't eat those anymore.
What chocolate?
So I like there's like a coconut chocolate that doesn't have much sugar in it, and I actually kind of like that. It's dark chocolate. I like dark chocolate. Darker the better.
All right. Chinese food or Mexican food?
Mexican, hands down. I think I was a POW in my past life in Vietnam or something. I don't know. I can't stand Chinese food.
Really?
Yeah.
Never?
Never. I was like, never liked it.
That's something I didn't know about you. Well, now I know. Chinese food or Mexican food?
I definitely like both, but I'm going Mexican for sure. I
Yes.
grew up on Mexican food, and some of the best Mexican food around is here in Southern California.
Yep.
Especially in my hometown over in San Bernardino. They got a restaurant called Meat Laws. That restaurant was built in 1937. It's still operating. It's a Route 66 attraction. Really good Mexican food. I wish I could cook Mexican food myself.
Yeah.
Not one of the things. You know what? Maybe that's one of the things I'll start learning to do.
Yeah. You know what I know how to cook?
What's that?
Albondigas.
Oh, there you go.
My mom taught
Albondigas
me.
is great.
They're so good.
Yeah.
How about yourself? Chinese
So,
food or Mexican food?
I grew up eating Chinese food at the Chinese buffets a lot.
Yeah.
That's how my dad fed me for a couple days. Like, hey, go fill up, and then he didn't have any food in his house. So then I came out here, and I got to experience Mexican food because all we had was Taco Bell, and it was crappy Taco Bell back there. And I love Mexican food.
Yeah.
It's great. It's good stuff. And Lou shows me some of these places that he just talks about, and man, it just get better and better the deeper you go. Yeah, Mexican food, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Your favorite color?
I'm going to go Dodger Blue.
Blue.
Blue?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I like the colorless, the black.
Mm-hmm. It's a good color. Your favorite candy?
Like Mexican little tamarindo candy.
Ooh, those are good.
It's a hard one because I like chocolate. I like gummies. I like so many different things. Do you know at Sprouts they have some of the best candy, and what they have is a butterscotch like toffee chocolate, and it's like a homemade.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably pretty high up there.
I
Yeah.
gotta try that.
That and like Lindt chocolates. Like I like the real soft truffles.
Yeah.
I'll eat a whole bag and then be sick.
What about yourself?
Oh man, when I was eating candy, like I really don't eat candy anymore, but like kids go to Halloween, they get candy sometimes. Like, they'll give me the Tootsie Rolls. I like those.
Oh wow.
Your favorite movie?
Oh, that's a tough one. Favorite movie? Oh man. I'm like, I went to school for films. I'm like, oh, it's like a tough question. And I'm like, well, which type of film? Nah, favorite movie? I'll just bring it up since I mean we were talking about it earlier, but yeah, one thing that was big in my own mind was The Matrix, because like that's kind of like right around when I nearly died, and when it came out, and I was just like, I felt like Neo coming out of the Matrix and like having a near death experience, and I just totally related to it, and I don't know how, but yeah.
He's one of my favorite actors, Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, same here.
He's great.
Yeah.
Seems like a good dude too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty solid.
Favorite movie?
For me, because it took years to reach a point of understanding with it, and I'd love to speak to the writers of the movie, and I forget his name, the famous line from the movie. But my favorite movie is the 1990s version, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Keanu Reeves is in that as well. Anthony Hopkins, Winona Ryder. And the reason is that now I truly understand. And if you read Bram Stoker's Dracula, the book, this is one of the few times where the book is nowhere near as good as the movie. A lot of times the book will be better. Like, what was it? Public Enemy #1 or Public Enemies or whatever. It was the one where Johnny Depp played... He played the bank robber. It's on the tip of my tongue, but now I just lost his
Bonnie
name.
and Clyde? Was it Bonnie and
Yeah,
Clyde?
well, Bonnie and Clyde are part of that story, but unfortunately they weren't included in that movie. He played John Dillinger.
John Dillinger, there you go.
And the book, which that movie was based on, is far better than that movie. If you read that book, amazing. That guy had to spend 10 years doing the research on the FBI files and everything. But anyway, Bram Stoker's Dracula, what isn't in the subtext of the movie, which you can only understand if you have a true understanding of grief and losing someone you're madly in love with, is that what makes Dracula Dracula, he's not an evil person until his wife dies. And the reason she dies is misinformation comes off the battlefield. He's fighting the Moors. You understand this is a holy war, that he's fighting the Muslims, basically. And he believes he's on the righteous side of God. And then his most precious thing in the entire world is taken from him. So he hates God. And what do you do if you hate God and you want to get revenge against God? You become as evil as you possibly can. And so he begins eating babies. It's basically what the movie is sort of showing you there very delicately, but that's what they're showing. And then he has, a lot of promiscuity going on with his concubines, and it's this whole way of just saying, F you to God. And then that journey of that movie up to the famous line, which, by the way, is, I've crossed oceans of time to find you, is the feeling I had when I met, and I've been in love more than once, when I've met these people and knew that I loved them, and especially when I met Nicole within that 10 minutes. I knew there was something that was there before we were ever born, and it'll still be there forever. Mm-hmm. So I've crossed oceans of time to find you. It's a better line than Shakespeare ever wrote, or anyone. And it's a screenwriter for that movie, and I forget his name. I actually had it in my head not too long ago. But the trajectory of that movie is this. Dracula Vlad finds her. She's been reincarnated. Mm-hmm. He's going to get her to remember, which she does remember her past life, 500 years later. And then he's going to have his love again. In order to do that, he has to perform the blood ritual and turn her into a vampire. And right at that moment that he's about to do it, he can't. And that's where the movie shows you that this isn't control, this isn't infatuation, this isn't lust, this is true love. Because if he really loves her and he does this to her, he'll bring her to hell. He's living in hell. He's a miserable demon, right? And so then the way the movie progresses, eventually it reaches a point where he has to forgive God and he has to let go. And only then can he truly have love again.
Yeah.
because he has to trust God, die, and he doesn't know when he'll see her again and how, and they'll only know by the way they feel.
Right.
And that's the magic of that movie. So I think that movie's it's my favorite.
It's good. How about you?
You know, I was sitting here this whole time trying to think of my favorite movie, and the only thing that I can think of that really makes sense is like, it's not a movie; it's a TV show. Unless you have a question about.
No,
TV.
yeah, go ahead. TV show.
I like watching The Office for some reason. I don't know, it's my guilty pleasure, I guess. It's such a silly show.
Steve Carell.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Ricky Gervais is a great writer.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting show. It shows a lot about ego and things like that, and you know, I like that. My wife likes it, and there's not a lot of cussing and weird, you know, things I can watch in front of the family, not be a problem. So yeah, that's kind of my go-to. Yeah.
Your favorite actor or actress?
I guess I'll just keep it the same since we're talking about. I brought up Keanu Reeves. It's fresh on my mind right now, but yeah, there's other actors, but. I wish I had more time than these other guys. I'm like,
Okay, let's go to Lou.
You get the first one, we get the thing. That's true. Yeah, it's true.
Lou, do you have a favorite actor?
It's very difficult because acting is such an amazing art form, and actors have their own approaches and specialties and amazing characteristics that they bring to the presence in the film. But one person that's always stuck out, and I don't believe he started this way, matured over time, is Brad Pitt. And the reason I say that is really because where it really stuck out for me is when you go from the movie The 12 Monkeys and watch him play an insane person, like it's so amazing how he does it. And then of course Fight Club and all these different movies. But one where he really showed me something was in the movie Fury, where he plays the tank commander. You know, this is not at all a jab towards Johnny Depp at all. But Johnny Depp has played a lot of rough characters. He played Joey Pistone in Donnie Brasco. He played Whitey Bulger in Black Mass. He's played some really heavy criminal elements and hardened people. He played John Dillinger in Public Enemies. But Brad Pitt did something in Fury that I've not seen too many people able to do. He had the eyes of a killer. The real thing. He did it. I don't know how he did it, but there's a couple moments in that movie when you look into his face and you look into his eyes, and it's something that Johnny Depp's never been able to do. He's done a great job. Again, I don't want it to sound like I'm putting a jab towards him, but I've never seen him really pull that. There somehow Brad had the real look.
You've seen people like that?
Yeah, I lived that life. I got to.
So you saw that in him.
He had it. Somehow he got it. I've seen it in multiple ways. I've seen it in soldiers who have killed on the battlefield. I've also seen it in criminals who have killed in life.
What does that look like?
You know, one time we had a visit when we were living this life. We had a visit from the Triads. Came to I had the presidential Jimmy Carter suite at the top of Omni in San Diego, and a friend of mine is a very deep character and things, and he was hanging out with these guys, and they came by with their women. It was the craziest things. Asian culture, different thing. The women walked in a single file line, and we had this big, huge suite. It was multiple rooms. It was almost the whole top floor of the Omni, and they went and sat over where we had all these like cute little chairs. And they sat down and they kind of put their legs together and they put their heads down. They didn't say a word to each other. That was really weird to see that. And then we went and we hung out with the men, and they were very cordial. They were very friendly. They were very polite. But they were killers. And it's in the eyes and it's in the face. There's a drawn look and a some sort of distance in their eyes, and even an indescribable darkness I can't explain. And I don't know that I'm just seeing that visually, like, you know what I mean? It's not a material thing necessarily that's happening. And there's a sternness. There's a cold, icy sternness that you don't want to come across that in a human being, because that means that they will have no mercy if that moment comes and you're in that situation with them. And it's just something that it's very hard to describe, but it's a feeling you get when you're in the presence of someone who is that. Yeah,
I think you described it pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, I met Brad Pitt when I was 18.
Did you?
I went to go see a concert. I went to go see Gwen.
Uh-huh.
And then it was like at the Roxy. And then he was passing with Jennifer Aniston. And they were passing me by, and I was little. And I was like, hey, can I get a picture with you? And then they kept walking, and then he's like, yeah. And then his security guard was like, oh, you can't talk to him. I was like, dude, I'm a little girl.
Right.
And so he comes back, running back. He's like, yeah. He's like, I'll take a picture with you. And back in the day, we had those, like, the cameras, you know,
Yeah.
where you push down. And so I was looking for my friend, and he wasn't there. And then he just grabbed me, and then he took a picture of us. And I still have it till this day.
That's pretty cool.
So I will never forget him. He was just so nice to me, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Are you favorite actor?
I guess I could go. Now I had a second to think about it. There's quite a few different actors, but I'm digging. What's his name? Shia LaBeouf.
He's
Yeah,
pretty
he's
good.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah. I mean, when that one movie when he did was it the tax collector or the collector?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That he
He did a
he
great
took it to
job.
another level. I was like, wow, this kid or guy, he's amazing. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, there's many other actors, but he's been recently on my mind because
He's good.
all the craziness he's been in. But yeah, I dig his method acting or whatever you want to call it, like that.
Yeah. How about?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's also interesting because it depends on what movie I'm watching, or not even really what movie. It's like what genre. Like if I want a funny man, like who am I gonna pick?
That's true.
Like sometimes I like Will Ferrell.
Oh, God, yeah.
Sometimes I like Adam Sandler. Like some of these guys, and sometimes I like Kevin Hart. He's like he's not too bad.
Yeah.
And then like I like Brad Pitt for other types of movies. He could be funny too. To be honest with you, he's got some funny.
He's been
things.
funny in some things, definitely.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of this movie. It's like where he's a gypsy. You remember that one?
Yeah, that was Snatch.
Snatch.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a brilliant movie where he did that language that he
Yep.
uses.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just kept laughing. I even tried to imitate it. It was nowhere near, but I could like almost understand what he's saying when he's like talking that gibberish. It's funny. It's just it just so it really depends.
Yeah.
For me.
Your favorite comedian?
I just saw my homie Craig Conan, but yeah, of all times, I would say Cat Williams. I've been watching Cat Williams since I was a kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, he hasn't really, I mean, he does have some like show on Netflix or something. It's pretty funny, but as far as like new comedians, I'm digging my homie Craig.
Shout out.
Craig.
How about you, Lou?
A lot of great comedians, but there's one that definitely sticks out for me, and it's because he's not just a comedian. And I don't think that I think maybe all comedians really are. So they're social commentators, and they bring an art form to the table that allows them to address issues within society and political issues, social issues, etc. But the man that I think that's done that the best consistently for a long time and pushed back against a toxic system has been Dave Chappelle. So I think Dave Chappelle's an orator. He's beyond just a comedian. So
Yeah.
I think he's my favorite.
He's great.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave Chappelle for sure.
Yeah.
Rick James, right?
Yeah, he's funny with
The
that.
Chappelle
That was
show.
his early days,
I used
yeah.
to watch. I had the DVDs and everything. I used to watch Chappelle show.
It's also been interesting to see him mature because
Yeah.
that was his earlier days and it
Right.
was really funny and hilarious. But now he's become
And beyond, right?
he's really become.
I think with his latest special too. Just watching it recently, I think like the way he's telling his jokes and comedy. There's so many like. I feel like just those slight little red pills in there,
Yep,
like he's just like
exactly.
slowly, like
Exactly.
just makes people question the the whatever absurdity of certain things or
Yes.
whatever, just or give an alternative perspective of something that's so ridiculous that
Yeah.
obviously he's one of the best comedians ever,
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle. But I love that how he's able to just it's not preachy, it's not political, it's not like left or right or anything like that. It's the way it's just almost like just obviously speaking from his heart, like just. And I think that's what resonates with so many people, who, are not looking at all this, whatever,
I think he does
stuff,
self-discovery within it as well. You can
Yeah.
see his emotional processing
Yeah.
of his own traumas and his own things on stage, and he
Yeah.
brings that to the art form. Yeah, he's great.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yep.
We used to go to his house and watch it when we were younger.
Really?
Yeah, that's awesome.
In our like early 20s.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
awesome.
funny. Your favorite rock band?
Favorite rock band? Oh, it's kind of a tough one, but if I would say like all times,
Yep.
I gotta say, man, I feel like I'm gonna do some bands injustice here, but I gotta go with the classics for me is Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Really kind of like blew my mind. Yeah.
This one for me was sad. It was sad in the way that it progressed, and I don't know if people would classify it strictly as rock. I don't think they would, but for me, it's Sublime. And when he died, it was. We used to listen to Sublime a lot on our psychedelic trips,
Yeah.
and there's just something about that beach vibe that he brought and the feeling to his music that was just made us feel so great. And then when he died, yeah, it was really hard, but it was my favorite.
Well, his music is still like,
Yeah.
how do you say, legendary?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't go out of style.
No,
It's still good every time you hear it.
Yeah.
It puts you in a good space,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I like Sublime a lot too, but I actually find myself actually listening to Led Zeppelin quite a bit. Yeah, it helps me come and keep my dad in my life, because my dad was listened to that a lot as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that's where I'm listening to most of the music. It does change,
Right.
You know, like I do shift my favorites sometimes, but
Yeah.
it's something about that band that kind of keeps me interested
Yeah.
more so than others.
Yeah. Your favorite sport and team?
Dodgers, I guess baseball. I guess that's the only sport I really keep up with. I played some sports as a kid, but yeah, Dodgers is the only thing that kind of keeps me and my family together a little bit. You know, we love the Dodgers, and yeah, I'm now coaching my son's little league team, so
How do you like doing that?
it's cool.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's fun. But I don't think I'll ever do it again.
Why? Is it a lot of work? Like,
Nah, I mean, it's a lot more work, but it's also, I'm it's single A right now, so it's like it's coach pitch, even though we have a little pitching machine.
Uh-huh.
So it's still fun. Like it's like a lot of the kids are learning the basics still. It's like for some kids first time even playing ball.
Yeah.
So it's like a big learning experience, a big fun experience, and I think once it starts going up into past double A or single like double A and all that stuff, like the parents start getting a little more controlling or whatever, and I don't want to deal with any more drama or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like the kids are having fun right now, and
Yeah.
I have fun with the kids, and
Yeah.
it's not too serious, and yeah, so I'm enjoying it.
That's good.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
It's funny because it depends on the context of what you mean. Remember, I was telling you even from a very young age what a rebel I was. I never understood the concept of sports spectatorship. I always thought, well, why would I want to watch someone else play what I want to be playing? So that was always strange to me. And then now what I see is corporate greed and the usage of sports as a tool for the matrix as well, because people for instance, I have family in Pennsylvania as well, which there's Steelers fans out there when it comes to football. I mean, that's
Yeah.
everything. The sun, rises and falls with the Steelers, and to watch those people go through what they go through when they lose, it's a strange thing to me because they didn't make a penny. And a friend of mine, was it you that said this? Someone said this to me. He said, "Yeah." Somebody, I don't think it was you, but somebody said to me, "Yeah, I was devastated. My team lost this and that." And then I went and saw on social media or YouTube or something that the team players were partying in Barbados, so they weren't devastated they lost. They were having a good time. Why am I so upset about it? So I appreciate athletics. I love sports. I don't know that I have a favorite. I obviously surf and ride motorcycles and stuff like that I enjoy, but I'm not a spectator of sports because of that.
Okay. How about you? like sports?
Yeah, so it's interesting what Lou is bringing up, because yeah, I didn't say that to him, but I definitely had that feelings before.
Yeah.
My team loses, it devastated me. It actually made me depressed.
Yeah.
For weeks, even sometimes. And I grew up a Lions fan, and they were like horrible for a long time. And
So you were depressed a lot.
Yeah, I was depressed a lot, and then my dad was kind of like what Lou was describing, where he'd get upset, and I actually learned something from that. That it kind of goes along with what he was saying. Like they didn't really care. You know what I mean? Like I guess they do in some sense. Like they put all that hard work in, they really want to get to the show, but only one team gets to the show, or two teams get to the show, and then one team wins. Everybody else loses. So
Yeah.
And then what is the cost of that? So
And of societal values. We pay teachers pennies while we pay somebody who runs a ball around millions. It just, there's so much there that we could unravel.
Kind of makes it makes you wonder, right? Like maybe some of that money could go to better places.
Yep.
And but I also think that sports is good. It can help you really like actively participating in sports is really good, and I think that that's super valuable to teach kids. Like how to lose and how to win.
Yeah.
How to try hard, how to prepare, and how to practice, and follow a rule. And find ways to exploit certain rules for gain.
Right.
So there's like great things. I used to play baseball and football. I love baseball. Matter of fact, I played that probably the longest. I also really like football, and then I got into jiu-jitsu for a while, and I loved that at the time when I was participating. Until injuries, and then now Lou and I are actually doing knife fighting. I actually really enjoy that.
Right, I don't know if I'd call that a sport, but it
feels like a sport.
Yeah.
It has like something there. Like eventually we'll get into the higher level. I think.
Yep.
Over time, and it'll be more sport like.
It's my passion. The edge weapon stuff is amazing, but it's very different from a football game.
Right, from a football game. So I would say like whatever sport I'm participating in. It's probably going to be my favorite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Do you believe in aliens and Sasquatches?
Yes and yes.
Do you want to share your story?
I'll share a Sasquatch story. Since I shared an alien story last time, we used to do a lot of. We would go out to like Window Rock, Arizona, to the Navajo reservation to go sit with peyote medicine and TP, and so our relatives were out there and living out there on the reservation. And one of the days we were there earlier, I can't think of his name right now. The elder, all right. He's telling us how one time basically he had like little sheep, right, and his little tiny, like not really a radio ranch, but just a tiny little pen with like maybe 8 sheep or something. He was like, so we're just checking out the land. He's all showing us just different parts of his land, and there's basically like no neighbors. Like maybe like miles away, you can see the next neighbors, and he was like, yeah, one time, I don't know how he came up, but he was like, one time I woke up, so at night we heard one of our sheep, were crying in. So the next day when I woke up, I went to go check on the sheep, and that one of them was missing. So when he went to go look for the sheep, because he saw like someone like it was dragged, to like a certain whatever. Like sheeps are pretty big. They're like hundreds of pounds.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right. It's a big sheep, right? I guess so he was tripping out like, who killed my sheep and dragged it, and so he was following the trail, and this is how the story came up, because we're at this little part of his land where it's basically like it just cuts into like a valley. It's like a cliff, and it's like it's steep. You're gonna fall down it basically, and it's not obviously no stairs or anything, but I guess that's where that's where we're at, and that's how the story came up, and he was like, yeah, right here is where the trail ended, and I was like, wow, we're like tripping out, and we're like, well, what was it? What'd you think? He was like, well, I know that previous night or whatever, they were hearing the Sasquatch or the Yeti, whatever, communicate. He was like, there was one that lived over here in like this part of the valley, and there's one that lives over there, and like he would show me some other mountain, you know, like miles away, you know, like almost the neighbors are. He's like, and we would hear him like basically call to each other, like they would say like a sound and like miles away, you know. They obviously something he was. That's the sound he heard, and he was like, yeah, they were calling each other that night. So when he saw the next day that something obviously killed his sheep, was dragging it, and then had to pick it up and walk off or walk away somewhere because, you know, and it was there obviously, you know, no human being could have done it. There was obviously no human beings or no neighbors even nearby. So, but yeah, he was totally like, you know, like 100% like, yeah, this is what happened. And
Was the sheep gone, or was there a
Yeah,
carcass?
it's
It was just gone.
It's
You
gone.
could just see the drag marks and blood.
Yeah.
And no sheep. Wow,
yeah,
that's
it's
crazy.
gone, dude.
That's
So,
crazy.
Do you believe that they
Yeah.
can like go in and out of dimensions?
I wouldn't doubt it. You know.
What do you believe in? Like, what do you think about them?
Well, I mean, I know that there's a lot of even certain tribes that really have like almost like a secrecy, like, you know, they don't obviously don't want to talk about them, or
Why?
because then, you know, you start telling, you know, obviously the public or, you know, people or American government are gonna have all these the men in black or someone, you know, show up to
Yeah.
you know your land and whatnot. And but I just think it's also like you know, the Native Americans that probably have that relationship with them know that they are maybe like caretakers of the land, or you know, obviously they're not there to do any harm, and it's just, you know.
Is that what they think that they are?
I do believe certain tribes, everyone has different, you know, belief systems, but I mean, yeah, I mean, did you believe that, you know, there are other beings, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think that they've been here longer than we have?
I wouldn't doubt it, you know, I mean.
Because I believe in them for sure.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Yeah, I definitely believe in them. And I think, like, just as, like, even the aliens, there's too much evidence, even, you know, beyond, like, physical evidence, there's also just, like, you know, just the word of the story. And people have been passing around these stories, and, like, you know, there's a bit of truth to every little story, I feel like. And I feel like, you know, there's just it's just overwhelming evidence to believe that there's, you know, there's no other beings, you know, on our planet or in our solar system, you know, for that aspect. But
Have you ever met someone and then you felt like, I know that you had your experience in Sedona, but besides that, have you ever met someone and you're just like, oh, this isn't just a human?
there was one time when I was in New York, I was at this party, and pretty much after hours or whatever, when everybody was pretty much crashed out, or I caught these two people communicating telepathically because I was picking up on it, and then once they realized I understood them, they both came to me and like started talking to me telepathically, you know, and it was probably like,
Was this after your accident?
yeah, I was probably like, I was kind of like scared, like on borderline scared this a little bit, and then but also like not scared, like I don't know how I could hear them or through my thoughts, but I knew like we had a whole conversation. They knew things about me that in this conversation that one of them shared with me that like, oh, you don't have to worry about this and that, like about my health, that I told you I was worried about my health at that age, you know, and like he was like, oh, don't worry about it. Like he said some things to me that I was like, how the fuck did this fucker even know, you know? No one even knows that. I even told my parents. I haven't told nobody, not a soul. And like, this guy's communicating with me, like, you know, through thoughts, and like, they kept it cool with me, and it was just like, all right, like I don't know, these guys are fucking obviously look human, but I don't feel like we're not from this planet. I don't know what the fuck it was, but or there's some type of like, you know, I don't know, interdimensional beings or reptilians or that shit. I don't know what they were, but one of them did kind of look like a reptilian, but I wasn't like some kid I just met there, and I don't know, it was kind of weird.
Did you ever see them again?
He was a ginger kid. He was a redhead. No, did I ever see him again? Once a few times when I was out there partying in New York when I lived out there, but I'm not gonna be like, hey, are you? You know, I wasn't like.
So like,
you know?
so say like it's me and you, like you could read my thoughts like that, like.
It's like, it's basically having a conversation without speaking, but like.
And how did you feel when that was going on?
At first, like I said, I was a little scared because like, I mean, I was like feeling like tapping into it. That's only happened to me like on psychedelics, and I wasn't on any psychedelics, and I was just like, you know, if anything, maybe like a little maybe drunk or something, but like it was just the craziest like spiritual experience where it was something like I felt like he almost not invaded my privacy, but like there was nothing like I could like, you can't have a negative thought or something, you know, you can't have like, because if someone could read your mind, you know, if you have ill will or you're scared or something, then, you know, like, but the fact that I had no fear in the sense where I was like open to it, and I was like, even just tripping out, hearing these guys like communicate without speaking to each other, and like, that's what like they looked at me like almost like, you know, you would see like a movie where like two people are like both look at you and you're like, oh shit, like, you know, like,
Wow.
like I broke into their privacy, and
Yeah.
like, how did this guy even like know? And like they're like tripping out, like this guy is like hearing us, you know, and that was a crazy, weird outer world or paranormal experience.
Have you ever had that experience again, like recently with anybody? Or it was just that time?
Just that time specifically. I've had some other times where other people came up to me. One time I was in Santa Ana and I was painting some mushroom alien, you know, UFOs, like basically like zapping some huge mushroom, like a big mural or whatever, you know, graffiti, whatnot. And some like lady came up to me on this fence that had like a thing, and she's like, oh, I can't really tell you much. We're not allowed to say so much. But she shared a message with me that like basically gave me the goosebumps, and I was like, like, what the fuck? I like looked around, like, where's all my homies at? Like, all of a sudden, all my homies everyone's like gone, and I'm like, this message was for me.
Yeah.
This weird lady, I couldn't really see her face because there was like you know, fences have like a little green mesh or whatever, you know, like, and I couldn't really see her face, but she came up and she just delivered some crazy message to me, like, keep doing what you're doing. You know, people are aware, and like, don't worry about like, you know, basically the haters or the naysayers, and like, you know, like, you're doing a good thing. I can't share too much because there's, you know, like rules and whatnot. And she was like, but just like, it was like a motivation, a little thing of like, I need, like, basically, you know, here's a little something, you know, and it was like, it blew my mind, and I was like, what the fuck? I wish it was like someone was here to hear this, you know?
Yeah.
And bam, she like just like walked away, and I was like, kind of like in shock, like trying to find my friends or something. Like, dude, this fucking lady just came up and said some weird message to me, you know? And like, anyway, but I was just
Those
mind
are some
blown.
good stories. But I could tell you, like, your energy is amazing, and I'm so thankful you're in my life. Like I've told you many times. And you should keep doing what you're doing because you are helping a lot of people.
Thank you, yeah.
For sure.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
100%.
What about you, Lou? Any alien Sasquatch?
So I've only felt things when I've been in nature, but I don't have any direct ties to Sasquatch, but I've felt things that were something's watching, you know? And it's not just your average animal life. But then also in doing the work that I've done, some of the journeys we did with Josh, sometimes then I'm on, usually when I'm guiding on something that serious, I'm on a low dose of psilocybin or LSD. Then when things get to the purging point, I'll have spirits come to the perimeter of the fire. We'll do it around a campfire in the desert usually. And those things have different shapes. I've seen a small red orb come around, and it will circle at a distance. And then I've also seen a giant shadow figure. I can't explain it. It'll kind of roll and feel like very heavy as it rolls over the earth and over the bushes and the tumbleweeds. But I think that's a little off topic because I don't, you know.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
That black heavy,
Yeah.
is it like a shadow? It's like huge?
Yeah, and it comes when the trauma starts to come out. And then I have to start channeling energy. And
Wait, what trauma? Because my father's seen this.
Well, one of the major ones where it happened was a couple of them. One was when we were treating a woman that sadly passed now, but another time was with Josh where he was going through major trauma release. He was on a lot. He was mixing LSD mushrooms and DMT to break through, and that was because the pharmaceuticals had really deadened his ability to feel. So we were having to hit it with a giant hammer, basically. And then he broke through, and he was dealing with all his childhood trauma, his military service. I mean, it was all coming up, his rage.
So that's what it was.
And those things come to feed on that. It draws. They came in like they smell it.
Yeah.
And then that, to me, is the person who's a facilitator in this situation. I'm conduiting through all this energy, so I'm having to flush this energy through me into the earth. And if I don't, I feel like they start coming closer and closer and closer. And then as that starts to happen, then there appears to be psychosis starts to be emerge within the person I'm dealing with, in that case Josh. Start to all kinds of weird behaviors and things start happening, the worse that situation gets. So now I'm trying to channel that energy as quickly as I can before these things come and start to feed on whatever's taking place there. But on the alien side of things is interesting because I took many years ago when I was in college and studying, like I said, I'm trained in classical mathematics. So when you get into the study of intelligent life from other star systems, there's very logical thought out process to addressing that in the way that this course, and this was before we had direct evidence of exoplanets, which are planets around other stars. At the time, we didn't have that yet. The technology, they hadn't figured out how to do this minute Doppler shift to figure out that the star is kind of wobbling.
Yeah.
And that shows that there's planetary, gravity happening that's affecting the star. We hadn't done that yet, but the course was so well done that you just know at the end of it that aliens are real. And the way they walk you through it is they start with biology, and then they show you how self-replicating proteins can kind of begin. And self-replicating proteins are basically genetics. And so self-replicating proteins become life forms and evolve into what they become. So that's the first part of the course. The second part of the course is then probability theory, which is pretty basic math. Just go through some basic understanding of probability theory and how probabilities are calculated. And then once you understand that, then they take you to astronomy. And they go, okay, here's the known universe, and this is only the known universe, and then there's beyond that, and the universe is expanding, and some of our equipment can't even pick up the furthest stars and galaxies, and there's billions and billions and trillions of galaxies, and there's billions and billions of stars within each one. And then you take all of those three core concepts, you merge them together, and you go, so what's the probability of life forms existing on other planets? And the answer is 100%. And then the question is, well, what about the probability that there's actual intelligent life that's far superior to ours that could travel from another star here? And again, because the numbers are so vast, it's extremely likely. So, but I did also have a UFO experience when I was a kid, when we were on a road trip with my family, and this very strange flying object flew over our old 1972 VW bus. I don't think my parents were aware of it. And I was a little child, and I looked at it, and it kind of hovered right next to our bus as we were driving. And I looked up, and it had these really strange orangish lights, and it was in this sort of round configuration in the sky. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I've never had anything more than that. But then all of my journeys that I took then also showed me interdimensional beings and things that I saw there, and that there also could be like almost, quantum tunneling, where you could, maybe some of these beings are actually coming from other star systems through this dimensional travel thing. So yeah, I definitely believe in all of it, to be honest with you, because we don't know it all, and that was the thing I was talking about with how mundane the world is kind of sold to people to keep them enslaved in that matrix. Oh, none of this is possible. Just live your life. You need to feed your family and get your little dopamine rush off of the little things you can get some pleasure on, and just keep feeding the system and forget about all that stuff, you know? So yeah, definitely believe in it.
All right, guys. Well, in conclusion, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you guys for coming on the podcast. Do you guys want to share your socials before we go?
Yes. So our social is _psychedelist. That's on Instagram. And then I have psychedelist_news as well, and many different ones. We have to do this. It's part of our deal. We have other things, but our main space, for me at least right now, is spend a lot of time on Instagram. I do like TikTok and things like that, but Instagram seems to be where I spend most of my time on the social media. Mm-hmm. Now Lou may have a little bit different.
Yeah, we've got Facebook. Lou Historian is my account there, just to me, and growing a bit there. I've been getting some content out there. We've got psychedelist.com / and that has to do with the censorship and the canceling that we've been through with talking about medicines and psychedelics and alternative healing. So we've been shut down several times. That's why Josh is saying that. I've got a TikTok called the PEM Podcast. That stands for Pragmatic Ego Management, and also a Louis Dorian TikTok. Yeah, I think that's the majority of it. But for us, the big thing is go to the website, Psychedelist. It's LIST at the end of the psychedela part. So it's like you're spelling psychedelics, but instead of the LICS, it's LIST.com. Go check it out. It's a huge platform with treatment modalities, products, laboratory testing features added, training and educational opportunities, attorney and legal advice opportunities, business-to-business options. It's really huge. Psychedelist.com.
Yeah, and we also have Viva Kambo.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Viva Kambo's on our site.
Yes. They
Yep.
You want to share your socials?
Yeah, so I've been banned on Instagram a couple times, but I'm still on there. But you can follow me at Viva Kambo Tribe on Instagram. Also have my 8 Chakra Studio there on Instagram, but I've been spending most of my time actually on TikTok lately, just because of all the censorship and shadow banning and craziness on Instagram. I'm still on there, but mostly TikTok. You could go to the website vivakambotribe.com. The new site should be up hopefully when this drops, but if not, it's vivakambo.org. But that's it.
Yeah.
Follow us in real life.
Yeah, exactly. Go try kombu. Go work with Lou.
Yep.
No.
And go watch my podcast.
Yes.
All right, you guys have a good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.